All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your patience as we get everything started up here. But we're going to be doing the Lonewolf matchup cast part 1. There will be part 2 tomorrow at 7 Central PM as well. For those who don't know, Lonewolf is one of the largest events in Texas, usually the largest event in Texas, specifically the South region in general. It will also be the last qualifying event for the South region this year. We have 69 players, nice, with a bye, meaning that we will have 35 tables, making it probably one of the largest Kings of War events in the country this year. So it's set up to be a good old time. With me, I have myself. We've got Adam Ballard, Devlin Smith, Tom Ennis, and Jeremy Duvall, all here to poke fun at our friends' lists and talk shit about who we think will be the best players this year. So we're going to get right into it. So starting us off, we will have our table 1, which I'm sure Dan King will be happy about.
All right, I'll take Dan's list then.
Up on the screen here because it's going to be Dan King versus Aaron Chapman. Once I can find the thing. There we go.
We should say that this is a challenge that Dan issued to Dojo in general, and Aaron was the one who took up the gauntlet and is gonna battle him out round 1.
Good challenge video. Challenges have just escalated. It's like display boards used to be something, and now they're like animatronic. Now it's the same thing. It's like you can't just write a challenge anymore. You got to do video.
It was hands down one of the best challenges I've seen in a while.
I agree.
So I've got Dan's list first. Whoever wants to read it off.
I'll take it. So real quick, Tom, did he pick up the gauntlet or jump on the grenade?
With this list, it might be more of a grenade jumping. So we'll see.
All right. So to start here, Dan's taking halflings. So he's got 2 troops of stalwarts, exchanging for the crushing 1 on both of them. He has a halfling rifle horde. He has 3 grenadiers regiments, 3 hordes of forest trolls, 2 aeronauts, 1 with the blade of slashing, 3 volley guns, an engineer with the aura wild charge for tinkers, and swapped this carbine for a long rifle. He has a sergeant with banner of the Abershire, and the standard of Haldenberg. It looks like it gets aura elite for infantry only. And then he has a mustard captain on wing airless, Meat of Madness, and Relentless. 17 units, total of 25 unit strength. Pretty nice.
Representing halflings. On the other side, we've got Aaron Chapman.
I'll take
Any volunteers?
list. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. So, real quick, do we have any idea ourselves of whether these folks are taking wolves or rangers?
It's a good question, and I did think about that. Some people have it titled nicely at the top of their list. Some don't. So I think it's going to be a guessing game.
There we go. All
for
right.
some of these.
Okay, cool. So Aaron Chapman's running Abyssal Dwarves. The list is sort of a throwback to his terrible style that was kind of rampaging through 2018. But he starts off with 4 identical regiments of Black Souls. All of them have drop defense to get crushing 1, and they all have throwing mastiffs. He then has 3 hordes of slave orcs, 2 troops of gargoyles, 3 hordes of decimators, and then he rounds it off with 3 iron casters. The first one has the EJ Periscope with Banechant and Hex 2. The next one has Trickster's Wand and Banechant 2. And then the final one's just got Banechant. Clocks in a whopping 35 unit strength, and it's 15 units.
That's a lot of unit strength.
It's thick.
Mm-hmm.
That is a ton of unit strength.
Yeah. And it's a lot of close range shooting with all the decimators, with all the throwing mastiffs.
Yeah, so this is another version of Aaron's slave work list. He hasn't played them in a while. He's been playing Alpha Strike, either Varangur or Green Lady. So I think he just wanted to switch it up kind of at the end of the season. So he brought this back. I actually like running a fewer slave works and getting in a little bit more combat, so you're not relying 100% on the decimators to do your damage. But the difference with this list compared to his previous ones is he doesn't have the combat characters, which I think were a real key to making the list work. I mean, not saying it doesn't work. It can definitely beat elite combat unit armies like mine. I think it's going to have a lot of problems with the volley guns and with the flyers.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I agree. I think that those individuals that used to run in the classic Chapman slave work army were a huge key and a huge factor that allowed him to kind of pin down and target the key threats and then just overwhelm from there.
Yeah, but it's a nice kind of on its head because at least what I've noticed in the South over the last year has been a lot of like alpha and elite stuff, and this kind of brings it back to the trash and the very thick kind of units. With, I mean, though he's using losing like 3 unit strength or so, like a regiment or a horde that pops, like there's still tons of unit strength that's going to be all over the table, so it's going to be really rough depending on scenario to get in there and remove all the things you need to kind of take objectives over. So it'll be interesting to see. In this one, see, because Dan's only got he's got 25 unit strength, but he's also got a lot that's the damage is going to be done by a lot of the artillery, I think, and the special things. But it'll also be just interesting to see how, in kind of a large scale experiment, what halflings do, because I'm still not even sure how they function. I mean, I get that you're trying to manipulate nerve values with the super brutal and things like that, but just sometimes you just need to see it in person to see how weird things get.
Well, and Dan doesn't even have that. He doesn't have a single sorcerer, but I do like what he did with his hero slots. The sergeant with the banner of Abershire is really, really a solid pick because half of his army doesn't have spell ward, so he can, protect those grenadiers, protect the forest trolls, do what he needs to do. Aeronauts as well. He can protect those from offensive spells, which there's a little bit of that coming from Chapman. But Chapman spent quite a bit of points on Hex this game, and he's not going to be able to use it against anything. So I like Dan's list a lot. He has really good shooting with the volley guns, and then obviously the Grenadiers are pretty solid as well. They're in combat, but the rifles are actually pretty solid for the halflings because they got steady aim. I haven't looked too much into halflings, but I do like a lot of the lists that Dan's taking, and forest trolls are the best trolls.
Yeah, I think this one will be interesting based, the first mandatory talk about scenario, take a shot, which is, a heavy movement scenario could be tough because Aaron doesn't have the combat characters, but what he does have is he has more shooting platforms, right? And one of the weaknesses that the halflings have is that there's a lot of lower nerve. I mean, he's got the trolls, which are nice, 15, 17 regen, but all those, like the aeronauts are height 5, a lot of 13, 15, 9, 11, and Aaron does have a lot of stuff. I mean, it's close in shooting. So if Dan can maybe not have to engage and play cagey and stay back, but if he's got this is the type of list, right? If you have to move towards it, he just going to shoot over you, and then it's so much to chew through. But if he gets some good work out of the volley guns, I think that's going to be like a key. That battery is going to be really key to him, I think, in this game.
Yeah, they're the most scary thing, I think. Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, if looking at these, it's going to come down, I think, a lot to Dan's long range softening up the list that Aaron has brought enough to bet where he can get engaged. Because if all three of those decimator hordes are still up and running, and more importantly, if they're not, if they're still getting shots off, especially like just unhindered, uncontested, they're gonna delete a unit a turn. Basically, is what I think will happen. So he's got to pick up enough stuff that he can either punch those to shut them down. They're not bad in combat though either. Like I think it's gonna be. I'm really curious how well those volley guns perform. I think that's a lot of what this will come down to.
Yeah, because Aaron can. All of Dan's combat units, the trolls and the aeronauts, are all tall, so that's exactly what Aaron wants to fight and shoot over his orcs and his dwarves with the decimators. I think, if it's a scenario where you can park objectives out on the edges of the board, that's going to favor Dan, because I think Aaron's just going to have to go up to wherever the objectives are, sit and wait, even if it means not fighting for a couple turns. And because if Dan gets close, it's going to hurt. I think it's going to be a bloody game, really bloody game. I think Dan has a little bit more on scenario to pull it out, but I wouldn't be shocked if Aaron won.
Yeah,
Do we know terrain? Is it dot deployment, or is it something else?
I'd have to double check and see if he announced in the pack. Previous years he has used dot deployment, so but I've also during Masters we just had set deployment, so I have no idea what the plan will be.
I think that'll matter in this matchup, especially.
Yes.
And I know Dan has played this in some recent tournaments, our variation of halflings. And like Tom said, this is an old familiar, an old chestnut for Aaron, but he hasn't been playing it. So I would say as far as like recent reps, I would have to go to the tail of the tape. The advantage would have to go to Dan, I think. But to me, again, we say it all the time, but I really think a scenario is going to be important with this one just because any combat unit that Dan engages with is going to get shot immediately. So it's like based on scenario, can he pick up enough, or can he weaken enough, or can he shoot off those stuff sitting on objectives at the end of the game with his volley guns and then fly his muster captain to win him the scenario. But I think it's going to be no action, and then you're going to have a couple of turns in the middle of the game that's just going to be like hyper bloodfest. 3/4 of their armies all killed within a couple of turns, and then it's trying to win the scenario out at the end.
Yeah, it's a shame that I'm playing and don't get to actually stream this one because I'd love to watch and commentate.
Oh, this would be a great stream game. Yeah, this would be a great game. I mean, two world-class players, two nice guys, we're all excited to have Dan come in from the UK, so it's a good game to get us started off tonight too. Super interesting.
Yep. Well, let's get to it. Who do we think wins?
It's tough not to vote for the king, so I'm going to vote for the king.
Gotcha. What you thinking, Devin?
I'm gonna go with Aaron. I feel like the only thing that Dan has is fast as the Grenadiers and the winged Arrowlegs, and so he can't close fast enough on those 3 hordes of decimators to really shut them off without getting in the danger zone for a turn. So I think that'll kind of be the tipping point between the two of them, because he should be able to kind of hide them in the early turns from the volley guns. So I'm going for Aaron.
What you think, Jeremy?
I think I'm gonna go. Dan, especially if it's a scenario where he can spread out, but it's going to be hyper close. So I think it's going to be tough, but I have a sense about those. It's going to be Last Samurai with those volley guns. I can just feel it. So I'm going to go with Dan, but either one, I mean, this is a close one.
Slight dig at the dojo event, I assume, but Spymaster, what you got?
I'm gonna go slightly in Dan's favor, just to give Aaron some motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron and I will be playing a practice game for this matchup this week, so we'll see how it goes. He'll at least have seen it once, which will be helpful. But I'm gonna go with Dan.
Gotcha. I will say for what it's worth, I think Dan is a fantastic player, and I think he can pilot this list better than most. But I still just don't have a lot of faith in halflings yet. So, and Aaron may be not as up to snuff with this style of list as he is, but he's still a fantastic player. And I think once he like puts it on a table, gets a couple practice reps, it's going to be like riding a bike. He'll be right back to it. So yeah, I think Aaron has the edge, but I agree with everyone's assessment that this is going to be a super bloody battle.
Agreed.
Right.
We did get a request if you could zoom in a little more on the list. Apparently,
can
they're
do
having
that.
some difficulty seeing it.
I'll see if I can get it. There we go. That's
That
much
looks
better
good.
even on mine. Cool. We'll do that for the next rounds moving forward. But all these lists will be available for view come tomorrow afternoon, I assume. Alrighty.
After noon or after the cast?
After the cast. After our
Okay.
second day of cast.
Okay.
Alrighty. Moving on to table 2. We've got Chuck Williams versus Jose Vega. Get them up and running. Can I get a volunteer to read Chuck?
Jeremy, you want to read Chuck?
Yeah.
I'll read Jose's.
Sure, I'll read Chuck's. So I am reading Chuck's list, and he is taking dwarves. So he's got 4 hordes of ironclad, all with throwing mastiffs, 4 troops of sharpshooters, 3 flame belchers, 3 battle drillers, 3 steel juggernauts, and the boss. I love this guy, Faber Ironheart. Total units 18 with 24 unit strength.
Oof. That's not what Jose's Undead wants to see. Man.
That is a lot of bodies. A lot
This-
of tough bodies.
And along
This is filthy.
this is I think this is Dustin inspired, honestly.
Man, okay.
All right. Here's Jose's Undead. I think this is going to be his debut tournament for him. He's been doing a lot of great painting work on him, so I'm excited to see him in person. So he's got Undead. It's a horde of zombies, a horde of ghouls, a regiment of wraiths, nice little mobile anvil. He's got the obligatory double Soul Reaver regiment, Chalice of Wrath, Dwarven Ale, 2 Revcav troops, run with them, 2 whites, 1 with Jesse's Boots of Striding, as you do, Ghoul Ghast with the Gnome Glass Shield, nice, a Vampire Lord on Undead Dragon with the Blade of Slashing, and a Necromancer with Veil of Shadows and Surge 6 and Inspiring. 12 drops, 25 unit strength. Oh man,
Wow.
That's a filthy dwarf.
Yeah, I've been talking about how much I want to see dwarves like put forward like a heavy shooting list or like just how good it could be, and this is good. Holy crap!
Yeah.
4 troops of sharpshooters and 3 flame belchers and 3 steel juggernauts just pumping out piercing 2 shots.
Yeah, and then come close, and these battle drillers, they tickle.
I guess the flame belchers are piercing, but
Dude.
still shattering.
And Faber is
And
so
range
good.
4.
The steel juggernaut is good, but what you get for the little extra points from him, that dash 15, defense 6 is Kyle Timberlake loves to play with this guy, and he is just like straight up value town.
Wild
It's
Charge D3, yeah.
He's just so good, and this is just like
It's also just so many drops. Like it's
6 more
18
drops. So he's going to be able to sort of deploy. I mean, I imagine that Chuck's deploying a certain way. No matter, you know what I mean. It's not like he's got super fast stuff to run up a flank, but
Right.
I mean, he's got some stuff to shoot at those whites. I mean, in Soul Reavers, and other than that, like the zombies and ghouls, I mean, they're just gonna bounce off of those defense 5 hordes of dwarves. But Jose's a really good player. He's really made he's been on that cusp, I think, the last couple of years of transitioning from like a solid player to like a real, a podium level player. So I mean, I know he has the skill set to do it.
Yeah, I just worry for him with these because like this is a very cookie cutter undead list, which isn't bad because don't get me wrong, the cookie cutter undead list is good. Like that's why everyone takes it. I think these Soul Reaver regiments and whites, like the last thing they want to see are these hordes of defense 5 because they're going to run into that. It's going to take 2 Soul Reavers to kill one of these.
Yeah, Soul Reavers are doing 10 to 12 wounds by themselves.
That's about the only thing in the game that a Soul Reaver regiment can't kill in one go is defense 5 hordes. Other than that, it's probably killing. And Tom knows. I mean, he's like the evil daddy of the the 4 hammer undead list, which is what Jose has at its core, right? Is the 2 whites, the 2 Soul Reaver infantry, and then seasoned to taste, basically. Would you want to play this with your undead, Tom?
Hell no. This is a horrifically bad matchup.
I mean, the Ironclad are the chaff in the army, so you don't even want to double charge them. Like, it feels bad.
I always thought Chuck was like this nice guy, and he just wants to have a good time and hang out. And then what's going on here?
He's been hanging out with Dustin. That's what's been going on.
Oh, okay. No.
This is so much range
for.
You charge in, you kill one of those hordes, and then 3 flame belchers say hello after that.
Yeah,
you got a dead unit.
Battle drillers and juggernaut. I mean, look at all these pieces, man. It's just
18 drops and 14 of them score is also a pretty good metric.
And a lot of it's defense 6 scoring too on these really these defense 6 individuals. There's no efficient way to deal with them usually.
Yeah.
So it's you have all these scoring
nimble.
Units that there's no good way to deal
nimble
with them.
Square bases.
Yeah, I was going to say
6 stupid.
They're not even individual. They're large infantry, which means they can get flanks, and they're not bad in combat with crushing 2, melee 3, and 5 attacks. Like they're very good. They're a little slow, but who cares? Because the whole point is that nothing's going to break this front line in one turn.
Or what does break it is an overcommitment, and then you just punish that.
Yeah, then you're going to be surrounded and eaten alive by all the shots.
It's amazing. His second line, all his second line stuff, which is all good value.
This is the filthiest dwarf list I've seen in a long time, and you know what? It doesn't have Brox.
So I think we need to highlight a comment here real quick. Lawrence comment. Can you find that one? At 732.
Lawrence said 732.
732. Can you just highlight it for everybody?
Interestingly enough, it will not show me that. It may be that my chat's behind.
It's a YouTube comment.
Yeah, my chat's behind by like a minute.
I think he was saying that Jose's list was made about Chuck's wife's hair, and that's something. There's going to be some face slapping here on this table one.
Keep my dwarf's name out of your fucking
mouth. Well, does anyone have any other thoughts? I mean, again,
I can just smell the struggle shack on this list. I can smell the sweat and the tires flipping, and I'll just go. I mean, unless Jose summons his inner Bobby Fischer and just plays it like lights out, I'm gonna vote for Chuck because this is just a nasty list.
Yeah, no, what Jose has to do is set the terrain up so he can hide behind it and just honestly play for the draw. Because if he runs at this list, he's going to get wiped out. I would get wiped out. Not saying I'm better or anything, but my list would get wiped out by this. So it's everything that I would not want to see running undead. I mean, the throwing mastiffs, he's got 16-inch range or 18? I'm not sure. No, 16.
16.
Yeah, so he's going to get value from each one of those. He's going to get them off before he gets charged. Jose has nothing except for his 300-point dragon to go get all the shooters in the backfield. So they're just going to be shooting unmolested for multiple turns. Jose doesn't have any heal. And when he gets close, Flame Belchers don't suck anymore. They're like weapons teams. They're awesome. And so, yeah, if I was a Jose, I'd just hide and play for the draw.
Yeah, I'll vote earlier on this one, but like I like Jose's list. I don't think Jose's list is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just think this dwarf list is this is absolute filth. I don't actually know many current meta lists that do beat this, and this is so good. Like,
yeah, and Elfless doesn't want to fight this.
Yeah, like I run into this, I die horribly. Gladestalkers run into this, they die horribly. Like, man, this is. I don't even know if it's safe to call this a dark horse because of how good it looks, but I give Chuck the edge for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the dwarf list as well. Just too many solid pieces, too many units to deal with. Lots of good unit strength as well for scenario play everywhere. So I think it's solid enough that it could easily win every game.
Yeah, and I haven't said anything so far, but there's nothing that really needs to be said. Like, Jose's list is good. This is not what it wants to see. And woe be unto him if there's a round he's banking on Veil of Shadows and he doesn't hit that. Oh, it's game over. So yeah, this is chucking a landslide. Sorry, Jose.
That's true. Something we didn't mention, the Veil of Shadows should definitely play a factor in this game. I just don't think it's enough, though.
Yeah, it'll help, but it's 4+ shooting too. It's not even 5+ shooting.
Yeah, and anything that gets through is going to stick is the problem. So
yeah, most of it's piercing.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, unless Jose can get some whites on a flank surge, turning and then going vertical down the line. I mean, it's gonna. Like I say, he's gonna have to do a masterclass of trading. And even if he like trades it amazingly, he's got to out trade 6 more drops. So it's and you can be super hyper efficient with your trades, but when you're that out dropped by that much defense too, it's really tough.
When I beat the shit out of John Green round 1, I'm going to be praying I don't play Chuck round 2 because he will wipe the floor with me.
All right. I will move us on to our next match, which is Ben Vinning versus Tony Rogers.
Tony!
Jeremy and Adam, if I can get you to read the list while I'm messing with backend stuff.
Okay, I can read.
Let you read Tony's.
I'll read Tony. Tony's one of my buddies who
I figured you might want to.
Former Bay Area guy living in Texas now. This is interesting, the list that he's picked, because he's usually a Abyssal Dwarf guy, but Tony's an old school gamer, like way back in the day. So I know he has historicals up the wazoo. So I'm pretty sure this is some old school historical list he's got sitting somewhere. But he's got 2, a regiment of spear phalanx, a horde of spear phalanx, a regiment of knights with Sir Jesse's boots. All have Indomitable Will so far. A regiment of mounted sergeants with Helm of the Drunken Ram. Horde of beast cavalry with Blessing of the Gods. And then they're getting Thunderous One and Vicious. A general on a horse with Loot. General on a winged beast with Pipes of Terror. A wizard, Conjurer Staff, Bane Chant, Heal on a Pegasus. Dropping Fireball for Lightning Bolt. The Monarch. And his version is the Sword of Mercy Slayer. And it's on foot. Crushing Strength 3, very inspiring. And then he's taking the Outlaws formation, which is 2 troops of bowmen and the Brigand. And they gain Volley Fire, which I'm not familiar with what Volley Fire does. When they don't move, they have both indirect fire and ignore cover special rule. Okay. And then taking some allies, a horde of siege breakers, and a sergeant. So total unit strength is 25 with 14 drops.
Not bad.
All right. Ben here is taking salamanders. He has 3 troops of ancients. He has a horde of ceremonial guard. He has 2 hordes of tyrants, both with the fire effigy and one with the boots of striding. Kaiser's lancers with the caterpillar. 2 regiments of scorch wings, one with the pipes of terror. Horde of Rhino Cav, a greater fire elemental with the Aura Wild Charge 1 for salamanders upgrade. Clan Lord with the Axe of Giant Slayer and mounted on a raptor. And a Gekuta Sky Lord, one of my favorite characters. I love him. So 13 units, 25 unit strength as well. So Ben has 1 less unit, I believe, but they're tied on unit strength.
I'm not familiar with Ben. Is he a Texas guy?
He's one of the battle pilgrims, so he's
Okay.
Pennsylvania. He's
Okay.
Bart's group.
Sure. Okay, one of the battle pilgrim guys. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, Ben, come say hi. I haven't met you yet. I know you've been to some Texas GTs, so I'd like to meet you. I'm trying to wrap my head around both these lists. The salamander list is more like what I'm used to seeing. Tony's list feels a little bit like take one of everything, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. It's just it's hard to see on paper how it all fits in, especially with the ogre allies. I do think ogres are the best allies for Kingdoms of Men, giving them the crushing strength that they don't really have otherwise. But I don't know. There's not a lot of like meta Kingdoms of Men choices in the list, so I'm not the biggest fan.
I think it's like he got tired of his abyssal dwarves and wanted to take something else, so he went through all his stuff and just is like, I have this, let me take it. I have this. So yeah, so it's a little unfocused, I think, compared to the salamander list. I think the salamander list is a little bit more on curve on what you would expect to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that, there's just a couple things that with the Kingdom of Men list that just feel off. Like you're taking spears, but you're not giving them the ensnare upgrade. It just kind of feels bad. Like they, for a small price, they could be just much more effective and universally effective against a lot more units. But right now, they're essentially only going to be effective against the Cav, the Lancers, and the Rhino Cav. Scorch Wings, we're probably never going to be charging them in the front anyway. So, you are going to just get hit hard against the tyrants, against these other salamander infantry units, and they have a good chance of taking off the regiment in one go and the horde in 2 turns. Whereas that could have easily bought you an extra turn for that upgrade. So, and I don't know about this bowman formation. Has anybody else seen this at all or have any experience with it?
I don't remember what volley fire, indirect fire, and ignore cover special rules are what it gets them.
Yeah, I'm looking at these 2 lists, and the Monarch and the Siege Breakers the only units that can do anything to that Horde of Ceremonial Guard, because everything else Tony has is relying on being Cab or Thunderous. So that brick is not shifting, and I think everything else kind of evenly trades out because you've got like both squads have a bag full of hammers. I think there's a little bit better chaff through the ancients. You can kind of try to run them through. They're slow, but or the Scorch Wings to kind of block charges you need to. But I think by that point, when you start trading, then there's a little bit more crush on the salamander side, so it'll come out ahead. So it's
Yeah, looking at the kingdoms list, especially like it. I'm not gonna like besmirch Calvary's ability to like hit something and pop it, but a lot of the lizard stuff, even his like the knight unit and the sergeants, and honestly the beast cav too, if they don't get, because they're still, well, they're Thunder One Crush one, so they're decent. And especially with elite and vicious, like they'll hurt stuff, but they're still gonna get hit by terrain. If they touch terrain, even against like these ancients, they're going to struggle to break them in one go. So I just think the Salamander's chaff is so strong. I'm actually a little shocked he doesn't have any heal in the list, because if he did, I mean, those chaffies are just super durable. So it is worth noting that there isn't heal in the Salamander's list. I mean, I did a quick double check, but which means wounds that hit will stick.
Yeah, you get a couple lucky bowman shots at those scorching regiments and take them off. Although they are defense 4 now for some unknown reason. I don't know. I just think the power of the salamander units is gonna get Ben through. I don't think either of these lists are gonna be tabling a lot of people, but I like the salamanders a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough shooting in the Kingdoms of Men list, because you got Lightning Bolt 3 and you have the Bowman formation. I don't think you're really picking anything up. I mean, maybe a Scorchwing regiment if you're lucky, but they kind of have to give you that target. That's not something that usually is just going to be sitting there in front of the only shooting units in the list. So, I just don't think there's enough shooting to have an impact in this game. So I think I'm going to start it off, and I'm going to go with Ben and the Salamanders here in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm the same. I like Ben's list a little bit more, so that's where I throw my hat.
You know, Tony's list, like a lot of Kingdoms of Men's lists, has a lot of different moving pieces and gears and stuff that's got to work together and support each other. Because not any one thing is that good, which in and of itself is okay to have that. You know, a lot of play styles and tournament lists require moving parts to all work together. My fear is that he just hasn't played. I haven't seen him play this list or heard of him playing it. So, especially the first game at a tournament when you're playing, it may take him a game or two to get comfortable with everything. So I think he may step over himself a little bit in this first round. You know, prove me wrong. But so I'm going to go with Ben as well.
Yeah, looking at the two lists, I mean, I think this Kingdoms of Men list, it really comes down to not having enough focus on any one aspect. Like, it's not that it doesn't quite even feel jack of all trades, honestly. More just kind of, I mean, as Jeremy said, I think accurately, it feels like I have these units, table, go. And like, it's king, so every list can win if you pilot it well. But I definitely think just list on list, since I don't know either player super well. I'd probably give the edge to the Salamanders and Ben in this case.
Yep. I think I already voted, but I'm going to go with Ben.
Oh, that confirms. Alrighty. Well, we'll keep on moving on. Next up, we have Justin Roberts versus Robert Levi.
I think you said Justin Roberts. Looks like Justin Robbins.
Robbins, sorry, you are correct. I just that was a misread, not a mispronunciation. So I'll take shots on the mispronunciations, but the misreads, I'll give myself a pass.
Double shots. Got it.
Double shots. Okay. I'll go ahead and read Robert's list if someone else wants to pick up Justin's.
I'll take Justin's.
Thank you, Devin. So for Robert, we have Twilight Kin, our first of the evening. We've got 2 units of the dreaded Glade Stalkers. No items. We've got some Blade Dancer Neophytes, 2 Hordes. That's 2 Hordes. 2 Crone-bound Butcher Hordes. Again, no items. Crone-bound Abyssal Horsemen, a regiment with Caterpillars, a Pathfinder. Crone-bound Mind Screech, a Crone-bound Archfiend, a Summoner Crone mounted on a horse, upgraded with the Scepter of Shadows, which I'm going to have to double check what that does because it's been a hot minute. The Summoner Crone, a second Summoner Crone with the Periscope, Veil of Shadows, and a Soulbane on Dreadfiend with Helm of the Drunken Ram, which is a nice little new unit they got. Nifty.
All right. And Justin Robbins is running Ogres. He has a Horde of Hunters with a Brew Haste for Speed 7 and a Crocodile. 3 regiments of Berserker Braves. 3 hordes of Siege Breakers. One has Liliana's Tear, one is Naked, one has Meat of Madness. The Crocodile Wrangler, a Mammoth with the Big Deal, because that is a big deal. Warlock with Conjure Staff, +1 Spellcaster Tier to get Scorched Earth 2. A Warlock that just has Drain Life and Lightning Bolt. Kozlo and Madfall, and Namaga Rock. 13 units, clocking in at 23 unit strength. The immediate thing that jumps out to me is the Twilight King player doesn't have Chicky with the Stealth Aura.
But they do have
Lee
the
Cart.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Lathiel is so good. I don't know how you don't take her. I mean, she's just gives so much to your list, especially when you're already taking 2 Crones. I mean, Lathiel makes the other Crone better, makes the Mind Screech better. You know, just makes everything that you want her to have. She has. I mean, does have 2 hordes of neophytes and the 2, and then does have the scouts to deal with Siege Breakers. It's just normally Twilightkin. I mean, he does have the 2 hordes of Butchers that have Crush 2, right? But they're just hitting on 4s. I would love to see Hammer of Measured Force on one of those Neophyte hordes, just to give you an extra tool to deal with that Defense 6. Defense 6 can be a problem for Twilightkin unless you're teching in those ways to deal with Defense 6. And I'm just not a huge fan of Butcher hordes, just because when you're relying on hitting on 4s, it just can be sphincter scary sometimes.
He does have a lot of crushing in this list, though, with the Archfiend. I mean, the Abyssal Horsemen, they hit pretty hard as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he has the answers to hit Defense 6. I think the big issue is that Justin didn't elect for the items to mitigate those waivers that the Siege Breakers freaking hate. Because as soon as you hit that 15 nerve and that Siege Breaker unit's not doing anything the next turn, it's practically as good as dead after that. So the item choices for the triple Siege Breaker hordes I would have expected to see are not there. So
Yeah, Liliana's Tear is an interesting one instead of Staying Stone, honestly, because I feel like you get way more out of the Staying Stone for that profile.
Yep.
Like Liliana's Tear is kind of a like, I hope they don't get broken in one turn, and Brutal is the tipping point, so I really can't have that affect me.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, there's the wolf running around a lot. There's going to be Dread. So Liliana's Tear is not a bad choice, but I think Staying Stone's always just a better option for a unit that is dead if it's wavered anyway. So
Grant wants us to take guesses as to which list has which special Lone Wolf character. I would say my guess, at least for the ogres, is if he's not running the ranger, then I think he's doing it wrong in this list, at least, because he's getting a lot of wasted dread out of the wolf when he has brutal and everything anyway.
I agree with that.
Whereas for the Twilightkin, he could do it either way, honestly. I don't think one is particularly better than the other here.
What worries me about the Cav and the TK list is, granted, he doesn't need gargoyles to deliver them. I mean, he has the speed advantage. I'm just worried that Ogre list has a lot of lightning bolt, and that's like
true.
a great target, 14-16 for all that lightning bolt. So that's going to be a thing where he's going to have to just make sure that he's giving that some terrain, or that could be a good target, to try to pick off.
Yeah.
It has regen though, so if I were to pick a target, it probably not the regen unit. Like defense 5, 14-16, he doesn't have that much lightning bolt that he's taking it off in one turn. So it's not as effective. I think that your lightning bolt, if possible, is going to be targeting the special character, the ranger or the wolf over that unit.
I'd target the Glade Stalkers so they don't shoot off your Berserker Braves.
Yeah,
That
that's
would be
True
fine.
too.
Yeah. Honestly,
I-
the neophytes are not a bad target either, since they're not stealthy and they're low defense. That lightning bolt will eat them up.
Yeah, but they're going to get stuck on the siege breakers. I mean, no
Also
hammer, no strength. Those things are just going to get stuck and get a horrific amount of wounds done back to them. These are like
no
the two
Bane
most.
Chant either.
Yeah, no Bane Chant. I don't know either of these players, which is awesome. But I also can tell that neither of these lists is exactly optimized. I think the Ogre list is a little bit better put together. I would have done the item choices and some hero choices differently in both, but I think the Ogres just have what they need to pick up the Twilight Kin. I mean, the big thing I'm seeing is everything the Ogres have is as fast or faster than everything the Twilight Kin has, with maybe one exception. And so they're just going to get all the charges. They have about an equal amount of shooting. Brutal 2 is going to be, is amazing. And so I think the Ogres have it better.
Technically, well, not just is it Brutal 2, it's also Cuzlo and Madfall Inflicts, because he's the one who does, like, am I wrong on that, or am I thinking of the wrong character?
You're right.
Yeah, that's
-1 nerf
additional
for everybody.
Yeah, so you're looking at a 3-point swing before you ever roll a dice is pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
I
It's
just
worth noting those hunters with the Brew of Haste are actually speed 8, so they're effectively a cav unit.
Yep. With Pathfinder built in. Yeah.
Yep.
You got any thoughts?
Oh, for me, I think at the end of the day, there's support pieces in the Twilight Kin, but there's not really any chaff other than the Soulbane, which is not a guy you kind of want to throw away. So I think just the shooting kind of trade out. Eventually, the Ogres will win and then be able to pick all their fights, as Tom said, because the speed's pretty equivalent across the board. So I'm going to tip my head over to the Ogre player. I think he's got the better list for kind of the neutral engagement.
I'll call that our first vote. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the TK list has a couple elements that are nice, but really that list really excels when you have a lot of synergies working together, and I feel like it's just missing a couple things. So I'm going to go with the Ogres in this matchup.
I'm already so sick of fighting both these armies in practice games. Honestly, I feel like I play nothing but these two armies now.
But which one do you think is better, Tom?
Jeremy has the best Twilight Kin list I've seen yet. I'm very intimidated by that. I think the Ogre list might be a little bit better in general. It's just so stupid. Every character they have is like, why are they this good? Which is why I might be taking them to Masters.
Fair. I'll go ahead and say that I agree with most of the assessments on the table. I think I don't dislike the Twilight Kin list entirely, but there's definitely some stuff that's just not super optimized. Butcher Hordes are kind of funky. I don't think they're bad, but they're funky. But most importantly, I think these Blade Dancer Neophytes are just gonna bounce off of everything this tournament, especially without Bane Chant to give them any sort of like actual hitting power. I don't think you're going to see a lot of things that have lower than defense 5. As evidenced by, I think, every list before this one. I don't think there was a list that had a majority defense 4. So yeah, I'll give it to the Ogres.
Yes, Ogres.
Alrighty. I'll go ahead and shift us over to our next table, which is Dustin Howard versus Nick Cotton.
More ogres.
More Ogres. Thankfully, not 2 in the same table. That would get interesting.
It'd be brutal.
I'll read Dustin's list. So we have a troop of the Boomer Chariots with the Sacred Horn. They, for some reason, got stealthy. That's an amazing pick. I would probably put it in every ogre list, especially if you're going to think there's going to be heavy shooting. He's got 3 warrior regiments, so on the light side for Cock 22 ogre lists. But that's because he's taken 3 hordes of siege breakers. 1 with striding, 1 with caterpillar, and 1 naked. I actually like terrain items on the siege breakers. I know the waiver items are good too, but I think that's a good pick. Mammoth with the big deal upgrade. Ogre Warlock with Drain Life. A Sergeant with the Bandit of Abbottshire. And the heavy crossbow. So basically like a mobile scoring war machine. So stupid. Another one with the Orb of Towering Presence. And I know Dustin is saying he's testing both of these items out in this tournament for Masters. So just seeing how he likes them. And then he has Grok. I think that's not a competitive choice. I think he has a particular reason for doing that. And then he has Namagrok, which there's literally has not been an ogre list built since probably 2020 without it. So that's Dustin's list. And this is an all-mantic ogre army. He's using a lot of models from his friend Kelly, who passed away. So.
Gotcha. On the other side of the table, we have Nick Cotton. If I can get a volunteer.
You want me to read that? I'll read that.
Sure.
All right. So he's taken Forces of Nature. We got a Horde of Ensnarers with the Hammer of Measured Force. A regiment of Hunters of the Wild with the Staying Stone. 2 regiments of Earth Elementals, 1 with the Tear, the other with the Orb of Towering Presence. 2 hordes of Fire Elementals, 1 of them with a Brew of Sharpness, a Greater Earth Elemental, a Pegasus, Greater Air Elemental, I'm sorry. Yeah, why would you take an Earth Elemental? Airs are just better.
He's got some of those too.
Oh, okay. Sorry. 2 Greater Earth Elementals. Of course you take those. A Druid, Conjurer Staff, Bane Chant, and then Scorched Earth 2. Gladewalker Druid with a Crown of the Wizard King, which I need to figure out what it does. But Surge 8 and Ring of Harmony. Also need to figure that out. Avatar of the Green Lady as well. So 13 units, 21 unit strength.
So Crown of the Wizard King's the extra
Jarvis.
6-inch range.
Yeah, it's the Jarvis ability.
And then Ring of Harmony is if you cast a spell on an elemental, you can double cast that spell on another one each turn. So you can double up on heal or surge pretty much every turn on your elemental units.
Which is
so that's the combo you want to go. Yep.
That's pretty damn good. Cool.
Yeah.
So it gives you an extra 6 inches on the spell on friendly spells targeting friendly units. Is that right?
Yes. The friendly units, correct.
That's the one. All right. I like it.
And Nick is an Austin guy, Matt. Is that right? His
Nick.
club's listed as
Nick Cotton.
minions.
I don't think I've met him personally yet, or if I have, it was very brief for a short moment. Because we've only just started. I had COVID for most of January, so we've only just started our local events up again. But I do know he's from Austin, so
It's a good list. It's a really good
Yeah.
list.
I like it. But how do we think it matches up against us now?
I don't think it matches up well against Dustin Howard. I think it matches up even worse against Dustin's list. Because with basically the one that's not Liliana's tier is because I imagine that would negate Brutal 2 as well, which is actually getting good value there.
Yeah.
But he's still rocking 3 Siege Breakers, and he can maybe chaff the other. He can kind of basically one-shot units, which will kind of negate the helpfulness of that Glade Walker Druid to kind of double tap and keep things healed off in multiple places. I love this nature list. I think it's solid, and I think it's where a lot of nature lists are going to go, especially with how powerful I think the Glade Walker Druid is now. But any other person, maybe you can play around a unit gets kind of popped, but you can kind of surround them with the Surge and then kind of trade out, especially with getting essentially 3 Surges for the price of 2 casters. But this is Dustin Howard, and he grew up on the Surge. You adopted the Surge. He was born in it, molded by it. So it's going to be really rough, but this will be one of those kind of like Jose's list where it's like someone's going to run into this in the second round and be like, whoa, this is gross. So
yeah, if you were playing anybody but Dustin, I'd probably give it to you, Nick. But playing Dustin a couple times and playing a Surge army against him, he's not going to give you anything. Just straight up. You're going to look at Surge and just say, all right, guess I'm not using that. So
put him on the clock. Sorry.
Yeah, the big thing for me is that without Surge, like if we just look at a front-to-front engagement here, which I think is going to be most of this, like the fire melters aren't bad. Like Crush 2, I mean they hit on 4s, but one's Brew Sharpness, so one of them effectively gets to pretend to be like Siege Breakers, except not defense 6 to the front.
And they're vicious, so that's why fire elementals are the strongest combat straight up.
Okay, so you get vicious, but you're still playing against defense 6, and they'll have brutal. So like the punchback's gonna hurt.
And they'll get vicious from Nom.
Yeah, and vicious from Nom. And I actually disagree with Tom on Grok here. Grok trucks things in the hands of a good player. I mean, he's a large infantry character that multiplies his attacks by D3 when he starts smacking stuff, and he has Crush 3 built in. Like, he hits a flank and things just vanish. And he pays for it. Like, I agree with that. Like, 250 is expensive, but like it's
in this matchup, Grok is money.
Defense 3 is just gonna chew through the defense 6 units.
My thing with Grok is like, if you're taking him, just take another Siege Breaker Horde, especially Ogres now with every character inspiring. You're not going to have any need for that very inspiring. So,
yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. If this was just 2 random, I hate doing this, but I'm never going to pick against Dustin, especially when I don't know the other player. I think it's a great nature list. My theory right now is like there's 5 armies that are just better than most, and then there's a couple armies that can play spoilers, and I think those are nature ogres, undead goblins, and Twilightkin, and so or Night Stalkers. Yeah, Night Stalkers. So this is, I mean, and I think we're seeing this. There's like 8 ogre players, there's 4 nature players, 4 undead or whatever. So the only thing we're missing is we only have 1 goblin player. So it's a very meta matchup. I could see it going either way. I mean, I think both have the tools to deal with the other's list. But I can't pick against Dustin, obviously.
Yeah. It'll be a good learning match. So Dustin
Yeah.
will
Yeah, I
teach you
mean-
things that you never knew before.
Yeah, in the immortal words of Randy Davis, Nick is going to ask, "What's it like playing Dustin?" And it's good. You're going to learn today. So the nature, it's a strong list, but I mean, come on, that guy's that guy's a machine. He doesn't make mistakes. He plays Surge all the time. You're not going to be able to pull any funky stuff on him. But again, this is either whoever loses this game, who they play in the second round, is not going to be like, I'm round 2 in Lonewolf and I have to play against this and I've lost, So, but yeah, I'm going for the Beast.
Also, it looks like John Hodge in chat says Nick is pretty new.
Okay. Yeah.
Welcome to the game.
Yeah. Look, man, getting 20-0'd by Dustin Howard is like an experience.
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
And Dustin's really good about teaching his round 1 opponent like how to play their army a little bit better, especially armies he plays nature all the time. So I would not be surprised if Nick is smacking people the rest of the tournament.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Best thing that ever happened to me was getting 20-0'd by Dustin.
Oh, it's one of the best great players in the community to lose to. He's gonna take the time. You're gonna learn something. Be open to learning, and you're gonna have a lot of positivity come out of this game.
Yeah, you're going to talk to Dustin for the rest of the tournament and then for months after that. And yeah, it just makes you a better player. First-hand experience here.
Yep. I think we can all safely say without having to go around the table that we're voting for Dustin here.
Yeah, the one last thing I want to call out is I want to see how money the Orb of Towering Presence is on a character that's already scoring. Because just running around unit strength 2, just being a little asshole and like stealing objectives and sneaking them away because people aren't noticing that item. Like that was something I immediately saw when that item came out, and I'm looking forward to seeing how someone a lot better than me can use it.
Also on a shooting platform of the character, it's disgusting, I think. So
yeah, so especially you keep those 3 together, it's unit strength 3. That's a unit, like it's a normal unit.
Yeah. Cool. Well, moving right along. Let me get us set up here at table 6. Stephen Hausnick and Nick Michalonis.
Were these 2 round 1 draws last year?
They might have been.
Because I feel like these 2 have played. I think we talked about this last year. Yeah, because I think Nick had his Night Stalkers versus Steven's Shooting Rats. I think that's what it shook out last year. So
there we go.
This is our 3rd ogre in a row.
Yep. Oh, there are a lot of them. So.
All right. Well, I guess I'll read Nick's list. Ogre Spam is the title of the list, and nothing can be said better. It is doing the standard. I don't know.
Holy crap!
Yeah. 1, 2, 3 of the warrior regiments are defense 4, crush 2, and then there's 2, 3, 4, 5 more regiments that are vanilla as they come. 2 regiments of berserker braves, a giant, which is interesting and not usual for this kind of ogre variant. 2 of the sergeants, how they come nowadays, which is you have the heavy crossbow. But he's putting them on chariots, so he's making them a little bit taller, a little bit more expensive. So, but they'll have that nice little nimble platform to move around and see over a lot of things because they're height 4. 3 berserker bullies, 1 with blade of slashing, and then Namagarok, because you can't make an ogre list without her. That clocks in at 27 unit strength for 17 units.
Nice. I'll go ahead and do Hausnicks. We've got Ratkin. We've got a regiment of warriors and 2 hordes of warriors, just stock. We've got 3 claw shots, like you do. A regiment of tunnel runners with the brew of sharpness, also pretty up there. 3 weapon teams, a mutant rat fiend, a brood mother specifically swapped out with the ranged attack. Or no, just gaining the ranged attack. I apologize. not swamping. Mother Kryza with Blood Boil, and Scuds. Allied with Goblins for a horde of goblins, a War Trombone, and a Bang It to sneak in some shattering there at the end. Clocking in at 17 units and 20 unit strength.
And it's important to note for these two, Steven took the Ranger and Nick took the Wolf.
Ranger makes perfect sense in the Steven list for sure.
Oh, look, another source of shattering.
Yeah. Case in point.
So yeah, this is Steven's Masters list. I mean, he just submitted it exactly the same. He took 3rd overall at Masters last year.
Yeah.
With it, and beat some pretty amazing players. Not the least of which was Jeff O'Neill. So we were really proud of him doing that. I think Ratkin, with all their long range shooting, is one of the lists that the ogres don't want to fight, especially Nick's version, which has a lot of defense 4. Nick is a monster combat army with some good tactical shooting, but I don't know. This is not what he wants to be fighting. He's going to get a lot of his units picked up. Not that he can't do it. The other thing ogres still don't like, even though they're really good, is flyers, especially one as good as Scud. So I don't know. This is probably my top 3 games of round 1. It's going to be close, and the thing to keep in mind is it's player placed terrain. I'm pretty sure, so that always factors into it. But I'm gonna have to give it to Steven.
Yeah, Mike Zettelminer has been terrorizing people in the Northeast with this sort of style of ogre list, right? It's been doing really well up there of the multiple ogre regiment. But I think its one weakness is that it is a lot of regiments of low nerve, and you don't want to see a lot of shooting or the combo of shooting with deeper nerve pools and hordes. So regiments, you just don't have the attacks to chew through that stuff. So, I mean, I think that ogre list is super nasty, and there's a reason why we're seeing so many ogres. But House Nick, I think he's got all the tools to deal with that, to start picking off those regiments early. So I think I'm going to go. I know we're jumping ahead, but I think I'm going to go with Steven too in this matchup.
Yeah, I think Steven's running the Travis Tim Special Light with the rat version. But the shooting's nasty, and I think it's been said here several times already, but I don't think the ogres have enough nerve to withstand the volley. So, and also Steven is a Super Beast disciple, so he's got a lot of practice against Howard himself. So I assume he's going to be practiced up and ready to go too. So, Nick, I know you're a good player, but I think this is just a bad matchup for you. So,
yeah, I'll jump in here and then let Devlin finish us off. I mean, it's a 3rd place Masters list with a player who plays 3rd, and it shows. It has all the right things, in my opinion, that a good all-comers list has. Because, yes, shooting's the priority here, but, you still got tunnel runners with +1 to hit hiding in there with speed 8. Those are not shabby. They will murder anything they touch. And you've got Scuds, who is just hands down the best dragon in the game, period. At least in my opinion. Debatably, but I would say at least the most damaging dragon in the game in a frontal charge.
the most expensive too, so.
2nd most.
Apophis is 5 more points.
Yep.
Yeah, but he's not
We're
good.
number
So
1.
nobody should take him.
Yeah, it's a good combination of speed and shooting. So basically, you're damned if you sit out there and I just keep shooting you to bits, and you're damned if you come closer and get outflanked and hurt by that speed. And these regiments are cool. I think they're actually like, if it weren't these hordes here, like if these were, if there was one less horde somehow miraculously, I think the regiments don't have to worry as much. But they're just going to get stuck against these nerve chunks, and I don't think Steve will let him touch the things that matter until it's too late. So yeah, I think it's Stevens.
Yeah, I think the one last thing is putting those sergeants on a higher platform means that they're not hiding if he wants to shoot with them. So the one thing that can realistically trade back is going to be made short work of, because that should be probably target number one. So once the shooting's neutralized, it's just shooting fish in barrel. So I hate to see. I hope one of these other kind of disgusting lists that loses round one gets to play against this list round one, because I don't want to see Nick round two after I lose. So that's going to be a rough drop or something.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of lists that are like, God, I don't want to play that. I mean, people are bringing some really, really tough lists so far in these first few tables.
Yeah, and I think one thing is touching on the point that Steven and Dustin probably play each other a lot. That's probably why you see the siege breakers in Dustin's list rather than just the regiment spam, is because they're a little bit harder to kind of shift, and you can't really. You'd have to devote a lot of your shooting in one turn to take it out, whereas the normal kind of ogre 9x9 list, this thing that Steven's constructed just eats it up. So he was like looking at his chops, like, look at all these ogre armies. I'm a feast today. So good for him, because he's playing against the meta. He's countering it pretty well.
Oh yeah, and another thing that's in the meta right now is just glade stalkers everywhere. Well, they're going to be shooting some rats, but the glade stalkers melt to something like this that Steven's got. So yeah, I agree that Steven's got a pretty good kind of counter to what we look at in the top meta lists at the moment anyway.
Unfortunately, I think this is Steven's first tournament of the season, so he's not going to be bringing this to Masters. And I know he's been working on a halfling list. He just couldn't get it painted in time, so he just default submitted this, which isn't exactly what you want to bring when you're playing in a hobby tournament like Lonewolf with sports scores and allied bangits and war trombones. Isn't a good way to make friends, but it's going to do some damage.
I imagine like if Steven like had a turn and a half of like hot dice, that this list is just going to erase you, and you're gonna kill nothing. All your stuff will be dead. It could be frustrating, but
yeah. I like both the players. Like I've hung out with Steven, hung out with Nick. I think they're both great guys. Nick continues to be my favorite source of dry humor in every event I go to. So I'll give it to Nick on I hope you pull it out, buddy. But yeah.
I mean, if he won, I wouldn't be shocked, because he's a good player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but it's going to be an uphill battle, I think.
This is filth as Rat King can get. So yeah, sounds like we're almost all in favor of Steven here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Tom will be happy about this next one, because it won't be Ogre's fun.
Thank you.
It wasn't my choice how they're ordered up.
Yeah, the choice of people is just as filthy as Ogres. So
yeah,
agree.
Move from filth lists to filth players. All right.
Man, this is just like a murderers. That's the thing about Lonewolf, is like 70 people and half of them are just absolute killers. It's
Monsters.
Ridiculous.
And then I make up the other half.
Nasty. Just nasty.
Jeremy, would you like to read out Jeff's list? And Tom, would you like to read out Brian's list?
Sure.
So I'm going to be reading Jeff's list. He is going to be bringing his Forces of Abyss. He's got a really nice all-mantic Forces of the Abyss army. So going for that prize. 2 regiments of Succubi. He's got a horde of Molochs with the Despoiler Champion upgrade. Cronius. The new Cronius post-Cock 2022 is a baller. He's got an Abyssal Fiend. He's got an Archfiend of the Abyss with Healing Brew. The Seductress with the Gnomegrass Shield. Gnome Glass Shield. Heliquin, a Blood Mask. He's got the Well of Souls. And then he's got the Lower Abyssal formation, which is Regiment of Lower Abyssals, Horde of Lower Abyssals, and then the Despoiler Champion with the Spell Ward banner. And what does that formation give them?
I'm checking. Whenever a unit of Kazaha's maggots suffer a rout result, all units in base contact. It's a mini diamond, I think.
Okay.
Or
like
exploding
explosion.
gem. Yeah. Suffer
Exploding.
D3 plus 1 hits with piercing 1 and gain the frozen rule.
Mm-hmm.
So not quite as nasty as the diadem or sorry, not the diadem, the exploding gem. I don't remember what the actual name is.
Crystal Pendant.
Thank you, Crystal Pendant. But yeah, it doesn't completely stop movement.
Last breath.
Yeah.
From that army, nobody plays. That's fine.
Yeah, it's last breath with frozen on top.
So 12 drops with 21 unit strength.
How's it going, Hank in chat? On the flip side, Tom, if you want to read off Brad's list.
Yep. So this is Brad's Green Lady list. He's been lending it to other players in the area to play at tournaments, but he's bringing it this time. He's got a troop of men-at-arms retainers with Stangstone for some reason. He has 2 hordes of the Brotherhood Knights, one with Burst Strength, Sacred Water, and the Pathfinder upgrade, and then the other one with Sacred Water and Striding. He's got 2 hordes of Forsaken Knights, one with Caterpillar, one with Haste, so it's speed 11, which would be nice against Jeff's Archfiend. Kind of keep it back. He has 2 Beasts of Nature with wings, and you don't even have to say it. I mean, that's just how they come.
Yeah.
2 Pegasi, super expensive Devoted with Inspiring Talisman, Radiance of Life, Bane Chant, Amount, Knowledgeable, so he can take Veil of Shadows 3. Man, that's an expensive caster. And Avatar of the Green Lady with Heal and or Cloak of Death.
Expensive caster, like the same cost that a mounted Cursed High Priest has with Healing Surge. That's not overpriced, but I'll stop complaining now.
That's why you take Revenant Kings now.
Do we think he's running the Wolf? I think he's running the Wolf.
Yeah,
He better be
He's
running
got
the
to
Wolf.
keep up with the
Better
army,
be.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ranger's not going to do anything in this list, I feel like.
Yeah.
So,
Man, it's 2 super elite lists. Brad's 11 drops, but Jeff's only 12 drops, and Brad's significantly faster.
2 hordes of knights too. Jesus.
yeah.
Which is not great against a lot of lists that can, chump block
Jeff.
you, but
Yeah.
Jeff doesn't have any of that, so.
I wouldn't say that he doesn't have any of that. It's just that I don't know that most of his chaff survives hordes of knights is the trick. I don't know that there's much chaff in this game that survives hordes of knights. This is the the type of chaff where you want to throw something into it that is going to die as opposed to try to live through it.
Yeah. The Blood Mass is the one that I'm looking at that's like, oh, you go stop that for a turn, please.
Yeah.
That's 85 points of stopping something at least. So,
Yeah.
And the Defense 6 Seductress, too.
Yeah. The 1-turn defense 6 is nice. And Snare.
yeah, because she could strip their Thunderous and then be defense 6 for the counter and have the could possibly survive
She might
1 turn.
have. Yeah, she might actually hold. She should hold. Defense, 30, what is it, 32 attacks for the hordes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, 32. So on 4s, assuming no terrain, it'll be a counter charge.
And Jeff's a great player at sitting back and using terrain, using units to deny charging. So, I mean, based on what the terrain is like, getting both the Night Hordes in, I think could be tough. Jeff's going to try to use terrain and all those ways to try to block that, not allow big frontages like that to get in.
Yeah.
And that Devoted is expensive. And if that's, Brad's a good player and won't give it up. But if he does misplay that devoted or leave her out in the open, that's like a great tool for the seductresses to just go over there and smack her. But I like that defense 6 and snare. I mean, that could stop and survive a turn if he needs to do that. But yeah, both super elite.
The big thing about Jeff's list is he's going for like the super wound removal combo where you do your regens, so you take that off, then you take away wounds with the Well of Souls, then you do Life Leech 5 with the Well of Souls, and then you get into combat with the Cronius, and up to 3 wounds can get taken off. So Brad's going to get the first charge. If he pops things, he's going to win. If he doesn't pop things, then Jeff's going to take it all back. And Brad's going to be in trouble.
And I think the key to that, the lower abyssals, I feel like they die to whatever hammer charges them. I mean, the Horde could survive a single charge, but I don't think Brad's going to be doing single charges against a Horde. I think the thing that's going to determine is at the very top is going to be these regiments of succubi, because do the succubi take the charge and survive, and then get all those wounds soaked up from the rest of his list, because they get affected by the Life Leech 2 aura for infantry as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the big combo. And if they can survive, then Jeff has a shot. Because assuming Jeff sets up for a counter charge or counterplay in some way.
I'm going to let Devlin go first, but I have some interesting.
Yeah, my thing is I don't feel like there's enough kind of trades that Jeff can force in this engagement. I feel like the places where if he's trying to limit one charge, like Brad's got the better speed, so he's just not going to take the single charges. Like Brad's a smart player. These are both best general, Lonewolf winners in the past, things like that. So Brad can pick anything up with a combo of a Horde of Forsaken and a Beast of Nature together. So 1 and 1 should pick up most, if not everything that Jeff has. And then he's got the 2 Hordes of Knights you also have to worry about. So that's 4 basically hammers that should pop something in one go. But I think just they'll stall out, and just the speed that Brad's list has will just kind of keep Jeff from kind of participating in the game the way he likes. And who knows, maybe Jeff can pull out some random go-go charge and get lucky, but I think that's what Jeff's going to have to rely on to kind of get himself in this game. So Brad would be my vote.
And I think the Molochs need to trade for 2 units this game.
Yeah. It's hard to vote against Jeff in any case, because he is incredibly good with just positioning as a general as a whole. My biggest concern is looking at his list and then looking at Brad's list, even if we just ignore like the initial impact that Brad's going to have because he does have that speed advantage. It's the counterpunch that like Jeff has to bring. And if we look at his counterpunch, no crushing. He's got Molochs. Some crushing, but low attacks. Some crushing, low attacks. And then you've just got these giant chonk nerve knights that even if they go to no crushing, their high defense is just going to carry them through in a grind fest, I think. I think even with the Well of Souls playing into that, I think they actually win a grind fest. Especially with the Sacred Water tagged in there, like
Radiance, heal 6, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's gonna be rough for Jeff even if he gets optimum charges, just to beat through these high defense, high nerve units. Because I mean, I'm gonna do one last check through here. I'm pretty sure I did not see Bane Chant. Yeah, no Bane Chant to call on. So he's just got to do it with what he's got. So, I mean, like I said, this is not me saying that like Jeff can't do it. I've seen Jeff play. The man is incredibly good with his positioning. Like that's been his main thing for all time. Is he's a good positional player. But just list on list, if I remove the players, I'd say it'd be if this wasn't Jeff Swan playing this list, I'd be like Brad all the way here. Like you put anyone else in the seat, and I'd say it'd be incredibly, almost impossible to top 2 Night Hordes just grinding with you at that point.
The thing that Jeff does have is almost all of his units are actual units, whereas Brad has 11 drops, but only 3 of them are or only 8 of them are actual units. Like the retainers don't count that troop, and Green Lady and Devoted. So really, it's like 8 on 11. So I don't know. It's gonna be tough for Brad. Brad's gonna need to roll well the first time he goes in, or he's gonna be in big trouble.
And I think when you're talking about positioning, right, we've already talked about the Night Horde size, but also the large Cav Order of the Forsaken is big too. And that's just what it goes down to when I'm thinking about this list. Is Brad's got all the punching power, but I just think Jeff is such a good positional player, and those frontages are so big that when Brad does engage, it's going to be he's not just going to get a full down the line charge where I'm charging your whole army with my whole army. It's going to be very tactical, certain, razor points. And if he flubs in any of those points, I think the positioning is going to be there for Jeff to try to pick up stuff. That's the only thing that I see kind of like going good for Jeff is just he's fighting against 4 really big units. But I mean, if Brad rolls well, or if he can get engaged, man, he's just going to roll through stuff. But I got to go with Jeff, I think.
I guess that'll be I missed if Tom gave a vote in his end analysis there.
No, I think you called it though, Matt. Just counterpunch might be too weak to get through all that defense 5. Because the way I see this going is Brad hits, takes out a couple units, but it gets punched back, pretty hard. But I don't think Jeff has enough crushing to get through, and so then Brad picks him up on the counter. So I'm gonna go with Brad.
Counter charge.
Devlin and Adam.
Yeah, I think I already said my piece, but I'm leaning towards Brad. I think he just outranges Jeff a little bit better, and so he won't have to take the unfavorable charges if he doesn't want to.
I'm going to go with Swan. I think 9 scoring units is just too few. I think that we're talking about trading and everything at the end of it. Even if Brad comes out ahead of all that gritty combat, he might have 1 or 2 scoring units left. And I don't think Jeff is going to be committing all of his scoring units to that skirmish. So I think that there's going to be more scoring units for whatever objectives are left to grab. So I think I'm going to give this one to Jeff.
All right.
But would not be surprised to hear either of these players win, really. Two top caliber.
Definitely not.
Top caliber players.
It's just such them list too. It's like Jeff this is like complete shit. I'm like, what is this stuff?
My list is so bad, guy.
I know
he's make it.
Well, it is bad. It's not good.
He even listed it. Hold on. The name was some soft serve shit.
I agree. It's not a hard list, but I know he'll play it well. And then Brad, it's just like full frontal male nudity, like no subtlety at all. It's like we know exactly what he's gonna do. It's not gonna be fun for you.
I think that's the closest call out we've had thus far. That's for sure. But yeah, alrighty. Let me get up table 8, and then I will answer Bruce's questions to whether or not he'll be today in a moment.
Yeah, he's table 11, so he'll be today.
Oh, okay. Thank you for checking. Next is going to be Tristan Glidden, and if I mispronounce that, someone let me know in the chat. I'll drink on it. Versus Lance Hatcher.
Do you want me to take Tristan so you can take Lance, Adam?
I will take Lance. Absolutely.
Alrighty. Let me get them both open first, and I'll move them over.
Just want to also
right.
throw out there, Jeff played ogres before they were cool, and now he's not going to play ogres. So
Jeff, this is the swan song for Jeff in our region, right, Adam? He's going to the mountain region next year.
yep. So this will
It's-
be. Well, he's already on the board for our qualification because we started at the beginning of the year. So
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
one less top what do I call it? The A list, the B list, and the C list of Texas, realistically. And so with an honorable shout out to John Green for Louisiana.
Is
All
that
right.
your L list for Louisiana? All right. We got Lance Hatcher here. He's playing Order of the Green Lady. He's got 3 regiments of Heart Piercers. He has a horde of the Brotherhood Knights with Vial of Sacred Water and the upgrade for Pathfinder. He has a Greater Water Elemental with Radiance of Life for Sacred Water only. He has 2 Pegasus. Unicorn upgraded to Fly and gave it Alchemist Curse 1. Is that even an option?
Yep. So you just roll
Yep.
Okay.
whatever the defense is. Yeah. No
I thought it was.
It's Spellcaster 2.
I thought it was 2 or 4 for some reason.
Or
Anyway.
yeah, wow, they are Spellcaster 2. Holy crap.
It's a living legend. It's Alchemist Curse 0, so you just add the defense.
Oh, I'm
Reading the
sorry.
Parentheses backwards.
Yep, you're right. So that makes more sense. So Alchemist Curse is 0. And he's got the Avatar of the Green Lady. And then he has the Water Elemental formation with 2 hordes of Water Elementals, a Greater Water Elemental, again with the Radiance for Sacred Water only. And he has the Devoted with the Amulet of Fireheart, Bane Chant 2, and Surge 7. The Devoted gains the Aura Thunderous Charge for Waterbound only. So pretty good formation. I like it.
Yeah. One of the better ones that came out with this cock.
All right, and I have Tristan's list up. So he's playing Abyssal Dwarves. He has got 2 hordes of Decimators, one with Blessing of the Gods, because that's how they usually come. 1 regiment, which is interesting, and 2 hordes of Lesser Obsidian Golems. 3 Dragonfire teams, 2 Greater Obsidian Golems, 2 Hexcasters, both with Weakness and Hex, and then 2 Iron Casters, one with Conjure Staff, Heal, Surge, and Fireball. The other one has Shrouded the Saint, replaced Fireball for Free Surge and Heal. And that is 14 units for 18 unit strength. So
Intriguing.
so I think my immediate kind of guess or kind of statement is, well, they're both very low drop. Actually, wow, the Abyssal Dwarves has more drops. But kind of talking about the Heart Piercers only have 1 target, and that's, well, 2, the Fire Teams and the Decimators, but they've got to get it in shooting range to shoot. So that is no bueno for them. The shooting is going to be pretty devastating from the Abyssal Dwarves. So he's going to have to hope, Lances, that he can pop the golems in one go, so at least he feels like he's trading efficiently. Because otherwise, if he sticks, it's bad news bears. So I do almost think that the second Greater Water Elemental might be wasted, even though it's probably just running around babysitting the Brotherhood Horde. But it's nice for a combo charge because you're still getting the radiance out of the one that comes in the formation. But to each their own. There's definitely a lot more chat picks on the Green Lady side, so maybe you can get a Pegasus into a Dragonfire team, but that's still not guaranteeing that it might actually kill it. So those will all be kind of fun gadgets back and forth to see.
Aren't these the same price as the Ratkin ones?
Yeah. They're not as good though, right?
I was about to say these seem like really terrible compared.
Yeah,
One
the
less
Reckoners-
defense and vicious instead of piercing.
And speed 4 instead of 6.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. Yeah.
The Wrecking ones are so stupid. Like, they're too
Yeah.
good for their points, no question.
Yeah. But it kind of makes sense because the play is something sticks to a golem. You just withdraw the golem, fire all up into him, and then surge back in, right? So there's a little bit different kind of synergy on this one. But yeah, it doesn't explain why
Sure.
the rat ones are so stupid.
So Tristan is a Dustin disciple.
Another acolyte.
Which, you can kind of tell with all the grind focus in this list. It is, some of it's a model choice because I think the center is super solid with all the golems, the lesser and the greaters together with heal 9 or so. But I don't know if decimators, at least 2 hordes, combo that well, and he doesn't really have anything that can like go out to the corners and get objectives and things. So it really is just like Dustin does. He's going to create a box of death. If you go in there, you're going to die, but just don't go in there. So, and then Lance's list, I think this is like those guys' club army, because I know a couple different ones have been playing this almost exact list at like Dojo and some of the other GTs, and so yeah, it's super solid. I mean, there's nothing really you can say about it. I think it has. I would drop either a Heart Piercer or one of the greater elementals to get Brew's strength for that horde, because I just think it doesn't work without strength. So it makes me nervous to be relying on Bane Chant too. So other than that, I mean, it's super solid. I don't know if it can get through all that defense 6 though.
Yeah, so this
Where's the Bane Chant?
this army
On the devoted, I think.
I missed the. Oh, there it is, the very bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, so this army I think was originally made by Andrew Mitten, like the models and everything, and then Andrew traded to Lance for his ogre army, so they just swapped armies. But I'm sure whoever wants to use it can use it from the Oklahoma crew, knowing them. So
It's a really pretty army and sweet display board too.
Yeah, it looks really nice. So, the one thing you kind of said it, like this is definitely giving me Dustin Howard vibes with this Abyssal Dwarf list of just a box of death. Anything that comes here is going to get grinded down and demolished. But looking at Hover, there is only 7 scoring units in that army. And the highest speed is speed 6 from a shambling greater obsidian golem.
Yeah.
They're not getting objectives easily. So I think this army, its biggest weakness is going to be struggling with scenario play, because 7 scoring units is just not enough. Several units will over double that. I know.
Yeah. Having played against a number of Obsidian Golem spammy lists before, out of all the units in the game that have defense 6, Obsidian Golems are the least scary to me. Like, they don't have brutal. They do have vicious, like that's nice, but they hit on 4s with no Pathfinder compared to most of the other shambling golems in the game. So they tend to hit trees like these. The thing about these Heart Piercers, these ones don't have ensnare anymore, thank God. If they had ensnare, I'd be like, the Obsidian Golems will just touch them in trees and never ever go through them. But even without ensnare, I mean, they're going to hit on 5s in terrain with 18 attacks. You're going to hit 6 times. Like, they won't kill this, and then they just keep regenning over and over and over.
It's a unit that he can leave on an objective and not move for the whole game.
Yeah.
So like what Adam was talking about, the it's not only the drop discrepancy that makes them better scenario play.
Scoring.
It's the actual elements within the list. And I just think the Order of the Green Lady list is just going to play scenarios better. It's not going to play the let's fight in the middle. I'll meet you in the middle. Don't do that. It's like the whatever you do, don't do that. And then that's when I usually do that in a game. But as long as he's not trying to fight in the middle and using those elements to just stay hyper focused on the objective, I think he has a real good shot to win. I think.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, this Green Lady list, it actually matches up pretty well against the in combat against this Abyssal list, because those greater water elementals get surged into a flank of an Obsidian Golem, and you have that aura for Thunder Charge. They're Crush 2, Thunder 1. I mean, they're going to do some damage, and you got a horde of knights that can just run straight down and just face tank one of these two. Kind of like how Matt said, even if 2 Obsidian Golems hordes countercharge that horde of knights, I don't think the knights go anywhere.
I just love that formation, man. This army just everything that was good just got better. And we talked a lot about it in testing, but it's just such a Order of the Green Lady is a real solid list.
Yeah. I mean, the Radiance of Life, the region, like on all these units, there's so much more durability in the core of this Green Lady list as compared to the core of this Abyssal Dwarf list. Like, I like the idea of the Obsidian Columns. I do like it quite a bit. I think the execution is just a little off. I think these Dragonfire teams could just be another unit of Decimators, even if it's just a regiment or something, just something else that's scoring.
3
I think that there's an obvious missed opportunity for Dravik and Dalkin, like the super, elemental.
Yeah, and you get some fireball out of that too.
Right, exactly. Like I'm really disappointed. If there's anything that irks me about this Obsidian Dwarf list is if you're committing to Obsidian Golems, why don't you have the best one? Like, because at least that guy's a brick. Like -20, defense 6, just toughest unit in the game.
Does
self-inspiring if it is
and self-inspiring.
I guess there are 2 hexcasters with weakness, so the Green Lady doesn't match up combat-wise as well as I originally thought. So
the weakness will help, but I think like this heal 3, like the Radiance of Life is the same. Like it's literally just as good almost. And that's just the Radiance before you count the region on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other thing is those hexes can make sure he's not getting Baneshine off without pain, and he's still causing wounds with his hex. So like, if he catches you with a hex a turn after you actually cast and you have wounds on you from a surge or something, it's going to kill you because he can wound with the feedback thing. But I think the other issue is there's not a good place to put the Decimator hordes that they won't either get really screwed over by cover from the golems or just be out on their own. And so I think those are units that can easily get picked off. At this point, I'm like, if it's kind of a tight control or dominate, I think the Abyssal Dwarves can have it all day because those are some of the ones they excel really well in. But as everyone else says, the Brotherhood army outpaces, outranges, outscores, and just a lot better for general objective scenario. That said, we do know that this is Lonewolf, so the scenarios get a little wacky, but I think even double bullseye, if that's the double dominate, if that's the go, I'd still take that Abyssal Dwarf list, but otherwise it's pretty solidly the Green Ladies to lose.
And Lance Hatchers specifically to lose.
I wasn't going to comment on the quality of Lance because we love him, but
it's hard to be too critical of Tristan's list because he is new and this is somewhat driven by model limitations. But I think it's like he has a freaking Night Horde. There has nothing to deal with that. That's going to go into one of the Decimator hordes, and unless he's going to like hide them behind the golems the whole game or something, and that Night Horde is going to potentially pick up a horde in one charge, because it's going to be hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, not hindered. And then those heart piercers can just abuse the Decimators as well at range, and it might take 3 turns, but they're going to definitely kill it. And so I think the plan is you kill the Decimators, and then you don't even have to kill the golems. You just put the water elementals and let them grind for the whole game, and then eventually bring the Night Horde around to win, or use your Pegasus to grab objectives or whatever. So I think it's going to be pretty tough for Tristan. The Unicorn is going to want to use its Alchemist Curse, but it's going to be Hex the whole game. so I don't think it's going to get to use it. But I'm gonna have to give it to Lance.
Is it even that good though? Because it's only going to be Alchemist Curse 6 against the defense 6 units. So you get 3 hits if they're not in cover, and you do 3 wounds. But then all that heal behind just says, "Cool, nothing." Because
Yeah, well, you mask the Heart Piercer shots plus put Alchemist Curse into something. It could get scary if it spikes, but no, it's not. It's not great.
yeah, if it was Alchemist Curse 8, 10, yeah, but
I didn't see the Shroud. He does have heal 6 there. If anything, I want to see this list versus the Dwarf list from earlier. This is actually not a terrible list, I think, to fight that in a future round. I don't know if it'll ever make it to that point, because I think he's going to struggle against this Force of Nature list first, but be interesting to see.
yeah, I think this Abyssal army will have its good matchups, but
Not this time.
I think it only has one good scenario, though, and that's Dominate. So the true disciple of Dustin, if you could play Dominate, you can play anything.
Well, as a quick rundown vote here, it sounds, Adam, you're pretty firmly in favor of.
I'm going with Lance. Yeah. Don't let me down, bud.
I'm going with Lance as well.
Gotcha. Jeremy?
Yeah, Lance.
Firm Lance.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay. All right, Tristan. Well, you heard it. Prove us wrong or do better in round 2. Moving on to our next table here. Let me get everything pulled up. It's going to be Jordan Lawrence versus Bryce Foster. I can get 2 volunteers to read so I can pull up a nameplate.
I'll read Jordan's list, I guess.
There you go.
Okay, so Jordan is bringing his a really, really beautiful army, his salamanders, and he's got a horde of salamander primes, 2 regiments of ancients, a regiment of Kaizenor lancers with the Mead of Madness, so that's extra wild charge, horde of Scorchwings, 2 regiments of Rhinosaur Cav, a horde of Rhinosaur Cav, and they have the Strider Boots, 3 Comodons, a Clan Lord with the Wing Bane Cloak on a Raptor, and then Rakawas, the Pale Rider. So really solid list, 27 unit strength and 13 drops.
I can read Bryce's list.
Thank you, Tom.
So Bryce is running Forces of Nature. He has an Earth Elemental Horde with Brew of Haste, so it's speed 6. I'm guessing to keep pace with the next unit. Fire Elementals, a horde of those. 3 regiments of Scorchwings. Gladewalker Druid with Shroud of the Saint, Surge 8, and Ring of Harmony. That's pretty much how you want to take it. 2 Tree Herders. One is the Wiltfather, and one has a Blade of Slashing. And then the Air Elemental formation, Nature's Wrath. He's got one with Measured Force, one with Strength, and a Greater Air Elemental taking the Wind Blast 6 for 25 points. So that's 11 drops, 21 unit strength. Super elite, but pretty tough to kill. A lot of speed 10 as well to go with the high defense. And Bryce is another. He doesn't live down by Dustin, but he's a Dustin disciple as well.
He's over there by me, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, okay. I know who we're talking about now. Yeah, I've run into him a couple times. I think on the head, like it seems like Jordan took some questionable picks. I don't like Comodons, and I don't know who should. But Jordan's probably doing it for modeling reasons because he's got a gorgeous, gorgeous army. So I can't really knock him on that. And as good as I think Rhinosaur Cav regiments are good chaff blocks, it's also the same cost as a single guy on a Rhinosaur who's a lot easier to maneuver around, and I think comes out at the same nerve, so it's basically just cost of attacks. And then the regiments of ancients is interesting because those are solid bricks, but you also have to realize they're still just speed 4. So getting them into position is going to be a real pain. They can't really lead in the front, so they're going to have to be kind of follow-up units. But they'll be able to hold objectives, but that's a lot of points to kind of pay to just hold objectives. So I've played against a similar version of Bryce's list. This was before it got the formation and before Scorchwings got a lot better. And so I've seen him work with this. He's a good pilot. Like Tom said, he's a disciple of Dustin. So and he knows not to just kind of scout the tree herders willy-nilly just for the hell of it. So he will be sure to be patient with those units as well and not throw them out. And we've talked about it before that Glade Walker's rune with the ring is just money, especially with the extra heal from Shroud, even though it's only +2 now. It's heal 6 twice a turn. Plus the Radiance of Life from the one tree herder. He'll be able to heal up things pretty decently each turn. The Scorch Wings can be a little bouncy, but really it's only the Commandants you have to worry about. They should be staying out of range of Rockwith, so far I'm kind of leaning towards Bryce's list.
I think this is that Bryce. His name's Bryce Clark, not Bryce Forster, but I just checked the
that was what
list.
gave me pause, yeah.
And there's only one Bryce. There's only one Bryce on the players list, so I'm confused. I hope I'm not wrong, but
yeah, this looks like the list that I've seen Bryce Clark play.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks like his list too.
So as a brief interlude, because it may come up, I had a number of matchups where I got basically so I was here is a list of matchups, right? And then that list had like people's names and who they were playing. And then I got all the lists. And so the lists had basically different stuff on them, like different names on them from who was actually in the matchups. So I went with the names on the lists for when I put all these titles together. Regardless of what the actual matchups were, because I had more faith in the individual person to spell their name right and put it on their list than I did in Mark Cox to put it on his matchup sheet.
I will say, using context clues, though, there's a Bryce that is Dustin's friend that is in my region that has played a list that looks a lot like this. So I would say we're probably talking about the right guy, Tom.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know this.
Having played against Ryan Munsell, likes to run regiments of Rhinosaur Cab as chaff too, and they like present as expensive thick chaff, but they actually like hit really hard for that unit. So you're spending more points on them, right, by 20 or 30 over butchers or Rev Cab, but they're deceptively really punchy. I just don't know, like, ideally, if you have tyrants or something extra punchy behind them, you know, that if you finally do get through them, but I don't know, like, what Jordan has to deliver behind them. I've never really played against Commandants that much. It's just like a shooting platform, basically, right? Ignore cover, vicious. So, I mean, if you roll good on your shooting, you know, that could be good. But I'm usually always used to playing against Lequilodons opposed to Commandants.
I think in this matchup, the Commandants actually are going to be better. Because
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Against those regiments of Scorchwings, they don't want to be anywhere near that 36-inch threat of a Commandant.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention that Jordan also has a horde of Scorchwings himself. So Jordan has a good amount of firepower to kind of focus down certain things that he wants. You know, Bryce can't just throw forward an air elemental horde and hope that it lives, you know, to all that shooting.
Yeah.
So I think that the shooting is definitely going to kind of dictate some of these things. And I don't think Bryce is lacking on the drops to kind of get those favorable matchups that he would want. So I think Jordan's going to have the upper hand in this matchup for that reason alone.
I think I would like to see those regiments somehow be 2 hordes as opposed to 3 regiments of Scorch Wings.
For the Scorch Wings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jordan's list doesn't have any recovery, like no heal, no iron resolve, nothing on that side of things. So wounds that stick will stick is worth noting. I do like the Commandants quite a bit. They're also, in my opinion, better than War Machines for a number of reasons. The most important one being that they score, which is a huge buff up from War Machines. They're also not at all shabby in melee because, I mean, they're monsters. They're not War Machines. So you get a whole bunch of different things that they're good for. One, it's harder to send individuals to go hunt them down because they don't get to triple their attacks. They blast in melee as well, so they're literally as good in melee as they are shooting.
And they have 3 attacks, right? Instead of just 2 shots like regular War Machines.
Yeah, so you got 3 attacks. Their melee is on 5, but I mean it's still blast D3 with crushing 1. So and vicious. So like it's not terrible if they, if you ignore them, they can hurt you. And Jordan does play them quite well. I think the issue is going to be whether or not they get picked up because they still are. I mean, they're still only defense 4. And I agree, the Scorch Wings don't want to, as much as the Scorch Wings don't want to be hit by them, these guys don't want to be hit by the Scorch Wings. They're not super derby, and the low defense does make them a little bit vulnerable. And the Nature List does have some heal in it to compensate.
A good amount, actually.
Yeah. Heal 7 right there.
The other thing
And
is if you
regen.
make the Commandants reposition it at all, like they can move and shoot, but then they're hitting on 6s. So
Yeah.
maybe you get 2 hits out of your volley. So
Right. Cover immediately
Yeah.
starts playing in. I agree.
because we know now ignores cover doesn't really mean ignores cover. It means ignores on intervening units. So
I've never seen this Rockless guy, though. That's new.
Well, he's
he's
good.
new. He's
Yeah.
new.
Okay.
He's solid, but
He's
he's
very good.
slow, but he trucks.
Sure. But like that's a profile right there. Melee 3, 12 attacks, and Titan height to see over things, to do nimble charge. Like it's nimble. Like,
And
holy crap.
he's 18-22 defense 5. He's like a pretty
Yeah.
durable piece.
It's a tank.
Yeah.
Should have been Crush 3, just saying.
Sure. I mean, I give you that. For 245, I'd say Crush 3 is totally fine. But like that's a nifty unit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that's probably one of the best units he has to try and take out the double tree herder, which is, Wilt Father plus
Yeah.
his buddy.
Outside of the Rhinosaur Cav horde, trying to get that in there. I mean, other
Yeah.
than that, he doesn't have a lot of like super can opener stuff.
Yeah. So I think that Jordan has the advantage on the wings with his shooting, but the center line of an Earth Elemental horde plus 2 tree herders backed
Yeah.
up by some heal. I don't think Jordan's really cracking that reliably. So
No, he's hoping to. I imagine a scenario where you need to spread out a little bit.
mhm.
Yeah. I definitely think Jordan will struggle against that. I don't think that his list is super optimized. I don't think Jordan's lists have ever been super optimized because he's there to follow Hank Googe in the paint scores now, or possibly beat him this time. We'll see. But
Shots fired at Jordan.
Shots
Shots
fired.
fired.
Fight.
I think Jordan would agree with me that he knows he's middle tables, but that's okay. The Rhinosaur
I was
Cav
talking
at
about
150.
the painting shots fired.
Oh, I see
assuming
what
he's
it's
second
called.
place already. Okay.
I actually like the Rhinosaur Cav regiments.
I think they're so good. I think they're just so
for,
good.
for what they are. I mean, that dash 15 defense 5. I mean, Rev Cav troops proved exactly why that profile is so good, and these are just the same thing, but they have built-in crushing.
They punch you super hard. They hit on 3s. I mean,
They hurt. But if I had to give it just on a list alone, probably Bryce, and I don't myself know Bryce well enough to know how the player skill is going to match up. Because Wolffather's just nasty. Like that alone, he's going to be sticking. Cloak of Death's going to be dumping wounds onto Jordan's army every turn that Wolffather's still trucking, and he can't recover them. They're just permanent. So it just becomes worse and worse as it starts stacking up.
Jordan is going to get his money's worth out of that wing bang cloak, though. I mean, Bryce has 6 flying units.
I had forgotten to ask about that. What does that do?
It's basically ensnare against flying units. So
there you go.
Jordan's just going to YOLO that clan lord up and be like, please, charge me.
It's a nice little piece of tech, definitely, to put in to deal with that. Yeah.
I think that Bryce is going to lose all of his Scorch Wings maybe by turn 3. So those Commodons are just like the perfect thing to pick those Scorch Wings up, even if they are hitting on 6s. That they might be doing that one turn, but I think they'll take those out of the sky. But I don't know. I wish Jordan had that Prime Horde be a Ceremonial Guard Horde. If he had that, I'd really like his list. I don't know how he gets the points to do that necessarily. Maybe do troop
Move
of ancients
to a troop. Yeah, that would do it.
I just see this game going like Jordan shoots off the wings of Bryce's army and then gets smacked in the face by those tree herders and defense or speed 6 earth elementals and the fire elementals, and just can't get back through them. So.
I think if this scenario lets you, if I'm Jordan, I don't even try to kill the tree herders. Sometimes there's only 2 in the end. It's only 2 unit strength between the 2 of them. Sometimes just like if you can, just ignore them. But
yeah,
I
agree.
It's just so inefficient to try to kill them.
And then there's all those air elementals. I mean, 3 units of them, 2 hordes and a greater. It's just those things are so hard to lock down.
And the Ceremonial Guard horde is probably one of the best infantry hordes in the game, right? I mean, it is so good. I think it's really good. So I'm with you too. Is that's hard? Not when you already are taking a horde of infantry, you try to find those points for it, but.
Because they're another 25, 30 points more than the horde he has right now.
Yeah, I think it's like 40, but still, you could find the points.
Yeah, it's worth the upgrade. You get 5 more attacks, like that alone is great. But obviously the phalanx is huge too.
It's huge on a defense 5 like beefy horde like that. It makes it like it gives it a completely different feel.
I mean, that horde's getting double charged if it's going to die. So most units that are double charging it, one of them's probably affected by phalanx.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing to keep track is he might use ancients and liken them as like anchoring his flanks or working as solo agents, but he can't do that in this matchup because if it gets hit by both air elementals or just 1-1, the one that's got hammer and measured force is just going to be like, yes. And just love going in there. The one thing that it's funny because I think Bryce got goaded in the last time we played at Forge. He had to make a couple of charges with those guys in the swarm, so he's wounding on 4s instead of 2s. So that's hilarious. But there's none of that that's really offered in Jordan's list. So, but yeah, what something is that ancients can't do what they normally do because they can't outrange anything, right? So they're going to take the charges they don't want, and most of the things, other than the Scorch Wings, which should be charging anyway, are okay looking at that matchup. 12 attacks back isn't going to do much, so even if it takes 2 turns to kind of grind through.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the ancients are completely screwed in this matchup. There's no good units for them to get into.
So to wrap this one up and keep us on track as much as I can, going down the list, let's start with Jeremy, then Tom, then Devlin, then Adam.
This one is one of the more interesting matchups I think we've had this round. One of the more scenario dependent. I think just having seen with those Rhino Cav regiments, I think it's off the radar a little bit, and I think they're so good. As long as his shooting does okay, I'm going to go with Jordan, but I think this game come turn 3, based on what his shooting has done, we'll know, I think, how the game is going to end up, but I'm going to go with Jordan.
Yeah, I think it will be a close game. But yeah, I'm going to go with Bryce.
I'm going with Bryce as well.
Devlin, you're muted.
Words are hard when you don't unmute. Yeah, it's good I didn't talk over Adam. Yeah, I'm going with Bryce as well. He's finished in the top 5, top 7 the last couple Southeast tournaments he's been to. So player skills about on par. Maybe I tip it to Bryce because we know that sometimes Jordan can drink a lot, and I don't think Bryce drinks that much, or if at all. So, I think Bryce has got this one.
I don't know that Jordan's much of a drinker. I will say that in this matchup, I think Bryce probably has the edge list to list, but I'll give Jordan my vote of confidence for getting a painting award this year. Go get him, boy. And that'll carry us on into our next match, which I will get pulled up here. We have
You're
Matt
so
Young.
wishy-washy, Matt. First you say Hank, you're going to come in second to Hank, and now you're like, you're going to get a painting award. Is there participation awards for painting? Because I'm right there too.
Oh, I know where I'm at in painting. It's nowhere near those top 3. We've got Matt Young and Lex Simon for our next table. I will go ahead and read Matt's list because I do enjoy my fellow Matt. And if I can get a volunteer for Lex Simon.
Sure, I'll do Lex.
All
I think
right,
this
for
is
Matt
the
Young.
first tournament Matt's been to in 2 years, maybe.
It may have been a while. I know that. I mean, look, man, COVID
Last
was a
Lonewolf,
time,
I think.
so COVID is still technically a time. But yeah. Matt has 2 troops of Red Goblin Scouts, 2 hordes of Boomers, a horde of Warriors exchanging for 2-handed weapons, 2 hordes of Siege Breakers, one with Mace of Crushing, one with Blade of Slashing, a Red Goblin Blaster, a Giant, 3 Boomer Sergeants, Grakamak, and Namagarok. Coming in for 14 units, 24 unit strength. I think everything scores.
So this is pretty much his list, right? So nothing super new.
No, he's stuck in last year.
Yeah.
It's like
this is
3
definitely
years ago.
Yeah, this is kind
I
of
was
like
gonna
an
say,
old,
this is
an old-
definitely-
old school list.
Boomer ogre meta here.
Yeah.
All right. Lex has playing Force of the Abyss. He has 2 regiments of Abyssal Ghouls, 2 troops of Gargoyles, 2 Molochs, both with the Despoiler upgrade, and 1 with Caterpillar, 1 with Liliana's Tear, 4 regiments of Tortured Souls, 2 Croniuses, as you do, 2 Warlocks, 1 with Mindfog 3 and 1 with Hex 3. And then the Well of Souls for 15 units, 25 unit strength, and all 15 units score as well. I'll go first. I really like Lex's list. Like, this is very similar to what I initially was practicing with the Abyssals when the new edition came out, and I thought this was an extremely strong list. Or style of play. I know the power of this. It's pretty brutal. It can grind so well. It has the chaff pieces it needs. With those 4 Tortured Souls and a couple of Gargoyles, he has the speed for certain objective scenarios, and yeah, all 15 units scoring is huge. This is pretty solid all around. I like this list a lot.
Yeah.
And I think to go with it, Lex has been around and playing a little bit more than Matt has because Matt's had life going on. So Matt's taking a little bit of a not in the meta list. Obviously, Matt, if he can tap into some of that strength from a couple years ago, he knows the list. He can run it well. But everything that Lex's list has is just polished and just we'll do him dirty. The only thing I'm kind of curious about is just the library mind fog. I feel like that's out of place because if you're trying to he doesn't have enough shooting to where the shattering from it really feels like it merits anything. And if he needs to, he can just use the firebolt to pick things up. He's sure it's a little bit longer range, but I would have rather seen another hex or something like that if he could have squeezed some points. But he's actually pretty lean across the whole list. But and don't sleep on the Molochs. Now, whoever thought that giving them vicious and brutal for the cost of like half of what those magic items cost, like whichever RC member that was, let me slap them because it's dumb. I play against 2 of these every week and I hate it. It's stupid. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Lex because that list is disgusting.
Yeah, if he dropped both of those spells, put Veil 2 on one of the Warlocks and upgraded Tier to Strider, it'd be pretty much a perfect list, perfect Abyssal list. At least as far as the style goes, because like the Tortured Souls give cover to the Molochs, plus you have Veil, plus you have all this ridiculous, just like Jeff Swan's list. You know, you have the combo where you regen, then get wounds back with the well, then life leech those wounds back, and then get wounds back from the 2 Croniuses. And it's just Matt's going to be surprised at how many wounds Lex is able to take off. Matt's list is still good. I mean, I know exactly how he's going to deploy it and what he's going to do, and it works. Those ghouls are not going to make it into combat. They're going to get destroyed. But I think Lex just his list is updated and it's just a little bit better than Matt's. So go for Lex.
Yeah, and Lex is one of those fly under the radar players too, right? Where he's a lot better. I mean, he's a really solid player that sometimes is not in the discussion as much as maybe he should be. But every time you play Lex, it's a really tough game. And like you said, if he's not picking up units in one go, there's so much wound shenanigan in that Abyssal list. It's so scary. Yeah, and I just know Matt's going to feel bad at ever coming to this list. He's going to see all these ogre regiments unlocking heroes, you know, that he had wanted so bad. Yeah, he'll have none of them in his army, but it'll be cool because it'll be like, you know, ogre love. You know, the ogres are where, you know, and it's a total like you say, life and COVID and whatever, that he's probably just excited to be going to a tournament and hasn't had a chance to update his army. But it's just funny how it's like regiments unlocked now, and it's like
hilarious.
Oh yeah, they do. So I'm gonna go with Lex too. And also too, Lex is a really amazing game. Super nice guy, really down to earth, plays with intention. He's like a really good example of how to play well and also be fun to play against. So really shout out to Lex. His armies always look cool too. He's got you know, well putting together a themed army. So this is going to be a good looking table too, because Matt's army is good looking too. So, but I'm going to go with Lex.
Yeah, I'll probably echo most of what's been said already here, but like Lex, I've known him for a long time. He's one of the premier Minions players out of Austin, a club that I think sometimes doesn't get enough credit. But like, I mean, it's got what I would argue is most of the B team out of the South region is in the Minions club in one way or another. And they're by no means bad players. I mean, Lex was in Masters last year.
He's gonna make it again this year.
Yeah. He's gonna be there this year. Like he's an extremely good player. And I agree with Adam in that this is when I look at Abyssals and when I talk about Abyssals being in my top 5 armies currently in the meta, this is literally what I'm talking about. Like this is that list. I do agree with Tom that like I said, I'm going to echo everyone here a little bit, but like I do agree with Tom that like I think the Mind Fog and the Hex may be a little bit questionable. The Hex I think is fine. The Mind Fog, I guess, to pick up things that the Molochs somehow didn't delete on their own, but like otherwise I'm not quite sure what this Mind Fog is doing here. But maybe he just had 15 points to spend. But that's literally it. That's the only thing I can nitpick with this list. Everything else in here is like it's just point for point, like exactly what you want to see with Abyssals. It has so much recovery. It's just nasty. And I love Matt. Like Matt's a great player, great guy, but I think everyone hit it on the head where like this is a list from 2017. It's an amazing list in 2017. I think it's still a decent list in 2022.
It's not quite bringing a knife to a gunfight, but it's like bringing a normal size gun to a Texas gunfight is what it
Right,
feels like.
right.
You know, where it's not as refined, it's not as up to date. Can it win and will it win? He'll win games at Lonewolf without a doubt. But as soon as he goes into those Molochs and doesn't kill something, and then all of a sudden it's double Cronius regen from Molochs, well, you know, all that shenanigan nonsense, it's gonna be like, oh crap.
And Matt's ogre list is going to suffer from something none of the other ogre lists are going to suffer from, which is lack of inspiring. Because those boomer sergeants are the only character, I think, that does not inspire in the list of all the great characters they have. So, yeah, he's got Grok and Nam for inspiration in this 14 drop list. So I think it's going to cause some issues.
It's funny what he could have gotten away with had he just dropped Grok and just made them all sergeants with crossbows. Like that would have made this list so much better. Would have spread your inspiring around. But
swap the giant for the big deal.
Yeah, the giant big deal sub.
Yeah, because I know he has a mammoth because he used to run one a couple years ago, or at least he has like a stonehorn that he could use as one. So yeah, it's for shame, Matt, for shame.
But you know, I mean, what you can say is it's the list he knows, right? And when you haven't played in a tournament in a while and you're going back, it's probably a good idea to just take something you know. Maybe he'll be so faded he won't care after game one. He's, you know, that could happen. You never know with Matt. I love him to death, but it's like him and Rashad. Like, which version are you going to get, the drunk one or the undrunk one? So.
Oh my God, Matt Drunk is the best. Let's get our head count for this one.
Lex.
Yeah, Lex.
I think we're all in favor of Lex here. Matt, I love you, buddy, and I think you'll do well in the event overall for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Lex's list is just it's that smooth, well crafted touch and modernized.
You're running into probably one of the 5 lists in the tournament that I feel like is close to, if not optimized for this edition.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And in any other region, Lex is one of the big boys. You know what I mean? And if only thing he under the surface sometimes is just being in the South, you know?
Yeah, it drags you down, man. Doesn't it?
It does. Drags you
top of that B team.
Balls just right in front of everything.
Alrighty. Trying to speed up how fast I can get us to our next matchups to shorten down that time. We've got Bruce McDaniel versus Dan Kamek.
I'm going to take my boy, my third wheel, my significant other, Dan Kamek's list.
I would hope for nothing less.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and take Bruce. Read off this one.
All right. So Dan's up first. He's taking the Lone Ranger. You'll see why in a second. He's got 2 hordes of shock troops, both with plague pots, as you do. 1 troop of claw shots with the piercing arrow. 3 regiments of Vermintide. A regiment of tunnel runners with bruised sharpness, because that's how they come. Mutant rat fiend. Broodmother with conjure staff and hex. Tangle. Scud the Bud. And then the smoke mirrors and death formation, so double shredder and death engine spewer. It's 14 total units, and then 19 unit strength total.
Nifty. Different than what I've seen before, but nifty. On Bruce's side, we've got Abyssal Dwarves, 2 regiments of Immortal Guard, both with throwing mastiffs, 2 regiments of Abyssal Half-Breeds, 3 regiments of Obsidian Golems, regiments, not hordes, all with Charnoxes. So all with the 1-use, 12-inch, 8-attack, 4+ steady aim shot.
Not 1 use.
Oh, not 1 use. Okay.
Yep.
I take that back. Okay. Interesting. Ironcaster with Surge 8. Dravik Dalkin, correctly. With Infernoc, because duh. And then the Damned Jaegar, which I believe are 2 Immortal Guard regiments, which have effectively swapped their defense 5 for crushing 1. Yes, and they have throwing mastiffs as well. And an Infernox with the Sacred Horn, which is bumping his elite aura infantry to a range of 9. Nifty. Coming out at 13 drops and 26 unit strength.
Rip half breeds. You will not see it across the table.
Yeah. Not their favorite matchup. It is interesting to see less claw shots in a Ratkin list, that's for sure.
Yeah, I want to say the list. This was the list. Oh, actually, pretty much all of Dane's list is Mantic, so that's super awesome.
Yeah.
This will be a dark horse, like a solid like podium should be for paint. I don't think it's got enough to beat Hank stuff, but this will probably be one of, if not one of the better all Mantic armies out there. It's super beautiful and it's low key. If you can look at the eyes and the Mutant Rat Fiend and Scud the Bud, he's done amazing work on those models.
Yeah.
That said, we have a couple of Abyssal Dwarf players in our area, and plus, if you recall, a couple years ago, that's what Dan used to play. So Dan knows the army well, knows the matchup well. We get practice against it pretty regularly. So there are some things that kind of give it pause, but the golems being regiments and not hordes means they're still poppable. Even with defense 6, dash 14 is a little bit easier to break. You can get a little lucky shots. You only need kind of, 7s or 8s. You could get lucky popping something. And those Immortal Guard are not going to have a good time here. So that's just some insight.
Does anyone know Bruce personally?
He's an Oklahoma guy.
Okay.
He came to Samurai Showdown. I ate lunch with him on Saturday with a couple other people. He's a good guy. I don't think he plays a lot of Kings. I think he plays other systems a lot. But that's a good list. I mean, I think the scariest thing for the rats is all the little shooting that the Charnoxes and all the dogs. The Vermintide are not going to like that. The shock troops are not going to like that. I'm a little surprised by how much all the Ratkin players seem to like the formation. So I've seen it in a lot of lists.
And it's a redeploy, right? Formation off. I'm trying to remember what it's
correct. Yeah, you got 3 trash drops and then you move them later. So
okay.
Those will be the first 3 things down and they'll go back. The fun thing is the Spewer gives that Iron Resolve. It gives another much needed kind of scoring, inspiring source. And then Iron resolves a lot of the important things in the list that you care about. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he didn't take the War Chief. I thought that's what everybody was doing with 2 hordes of shock troops. And
he uses his shock troops more as second wave than actually kind of presenting with them. So his shock troops are there to clean up what didn't get murdered by some of this shooting or just high threats. And then the Tangle's there just to make sure that bad things don't happen with the unlucky waivers.
And Dan took this to Shiloh recently, or a similar version, and he did pretty well, didn't he?
Yeah. He was
like 3rd or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He had a little bit more claw shots on a little bit of the weapons teams. He switched to some of the Vermintide, but he's also can heal things up sneakily between the Radiance of Life from the Mutant Rat Fiend and the Radiance of Life from the One Brood Mother, and then the Iron Resolve. So he's got a little bit of wound mitigation along with the Drain Life, so he can pump into those Vermintide and heal some of his expensive stuff back up.
And Dan is definitely, Devlin said it, he's definitely one of those, if you're new to Lone Wolf or you've never seen his army, he's one of those players you go find his army and look at it. He's a beautiful painter. He's been doing a lot of work in oil paints lately. So if you're interested to take a look at that. And just a really, one of those really good hobby guys who also is a really solid player who maybe flies under the radar sometimes too. But I think, he's got some piercing shooting. Scud is amazing to deal with those regiments of obsidian golems. Yeah, and he's been playing this list a bunch, like Adam said, and I know that he's been, getting in a lot of reps. So I think I like Dan in this. Well, I like Dan, but for other reasons. I'm just kidding. They don't call him Hot Dan for nothing.
Handsome Dan, Hot Dan.
Yeah.
It's Hot
Tom's
Dan
like,
with 2 H's.
I'm handsome, Tom. He's Hot Dan. Get it right. But yeah, Dan's placed well, especially in these overall tournaments where soft scores matter. He's always up in the decision, up there and definitely he would be in the list of Mantic armies that have a chance to win the prize. So I think I am gonna go with Dan, and definitely go check out his army if you're at Lonewolf and you haven't seen his work yet.
Yeah. Doing a quick scan through here a couple times just to look at kind of the relative matchup. Like the Abyssal half-breeds are cool. I just don't think they work with the rest of the list. Like they on their own don't offer enough of that kind of like scary threat to really push threat on the Ratkin. So the Rat can just march up and start shooting the crap out of everything else, and everything else is speed 4 and 5, and the Rat can outspeed that. And like if the half breeds come in on their own, then they're just going to get melted by everything else. So like I don't dislike this list, but I feel the half breeds could be something else that's more useful in it. And if they were, I think that's probably the missing sauce that this needs. But otherwise, like I mean, I like regiments and I like regiment play, so. I just don't think it's a good matchup against Dan's list. And
they're
Dan,
just not regiments of chariots. Oh, okay.
Well, look, we haven't sure, but against Dan's list specifically, I mean, Dan is a good player, as everyone has said. He does tend to slide under there, and I think out of all the lists I've seen him play, this is the one that he's played the best thus far. Especially with this, I mean, this formation is good. Shredders are absolutely incredible as far as war machines go now. Like it's just a ton of shots that are super accurate with good blast and shattering. I imagine Dan's probably taking the Lone Ranger on top of that.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, exactly. If I were Bruce, I'd be taking the Wolf, if anything, to try to get the Dread. Okay,
it's in the name of the file.
Oh, is it? Yeah, Wolf. There we go. Yeah. So perfect. Yeah, which makes sense because it's going to add the Dread to all these combat units, so that tracks.
I'm like you, Matt. It's just something about Obsidian Golems. If I'm going to see a unit like that, that's the version of it that I want to see. Just whatever. It just hitting on 4. It's just. As long as you're not playing like a super sneaky player, I feel like, I'm going to chop them up. I'll feed them. It's never a unit that I'm really terrified of facing.
Yeah.
That's spoken like someone who didn't have to fight Jeff Shulk in round 6 at Masters last year. They're nasty. Yeah. They're ridiculously good still, I think.
Yeah, Jeff will make you eat those words, but
sure. But Jeff is an exceptionally good player.
I will say that these Obsidian Golems are not the ones you're thinking of, though, because they're in regiment form and they're shooting. These are... I don't think these really see combat unless they just focus fire, shoot, and then I'll get a couple more wounds by surging them in. Why not? So, yeah, I mean...
Does have some good surge.
He has surge, but I think that their main focus or their first priority is to provide that range threat.
I will say,
so you're saying he's using them like old chariots, basically, like moving them speed 5 and then shooting.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
still don't think it's enough to beat out Dan's list.
It's a good shooting profile for that upgrade. Like 8 attack, hitting on 4s, piercing 1, steady aim.
Yeah.
Bruce has the right list to deal with the center of Dan's army. Like a lot of little shooting stuff to pick up the chaff and nothing. He doesn't really care if anything dies necessarily. And shock troops are only defense 4, so hitting on 3s with crushing is going to hurt him pretty bad. I think I'm gonna go with Dan because I think the monsters, the mutant rat fiend, Scud, and the sharpness chariots are really gonna be what wins Dan this game. There's nothing to deal with those in the Abyssal Dwarf list, so they're going to be a massive problem for Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce's list is just almost a death by 1,000 cuts, but it doesn't have enough units for it. Like most of his stuff is like the half breeds at 200 points are like his most expensive hammer. I mean, obviously he has an Infernox that's 255, but everything else is just kind of mediocre point value and whatnot. Like you're not, it's all expendable to a certain extent. I think this is a good list and a good style of play, but I don't think it works at 13 drops. I think he needs like 15 drops with this type of play to make it much more effective. So I think that I'll start off by saying I think Dan's got this one. I don't think there's enough units in Bruce's list to get the value.
I think it'll be super bloody because there is a decent amount of shooting in this Abyssal Dwarf list, like between the throwing mastiffs, the walk and shooting obsidian golems. I just really wish these half breeds were, if anything, more of these regiments of obsidian golems or more Immortal Guard, if we're sticking with that theme for what they give. But otherwise, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I give the edge to Dan, probably just on experience with his list.
Yeah, the one thing just to keep in mind is those Immortal Guard, both variants are probably going to be elite because of the horn on the Infernox. So he can kind of punch a little bit, but Dan's not really going to want to get into it as much with the shock troops. I mean, he has them there for threat kind of projection, but push comes to shove, he's kind of fine with just sitting back. But looking that there's not as much shooting in Dan's list, he'll probably kind of throw them into the fray. But those shock troops can also have a good chance to kind of one-shot those Immortal Guard with some hot dice. So, but I'm also going to stick with Dan just because, like I said, we have a couple of Abyssal Dwarf players in our local, so he's familiar with all the things that he used to pilot the list. So he's pretty good at dealing with that. Your one hope, Bruce, is make sure you're on the clock and just give him too many things to think about, because Dan is the master of timing out and getting draws or losses when he was beating your ass really badly. So.
Jeremy?
Tom?
Oh.
Yeah, all for all the reasons everyone you picked out good stuff, I'm going to go with Dan.
Yeah, I think this is actually a good matchup for Bruce. It's just he doesn't have anything to deal with the flying rat, so I'm going to give it to Dan.
Gotcha. Another one I'd love to cast just to see it play out, but for another time.
I think this is Bruce in the chat saying, I have never played tested this list. Votes of confidence, everybody.
Yes. That was Bruce because he asked if he was going to get cast tonight. So there you go, buddy.
All right. Well, this is the test run.
Yep. Prove us wrong. That's how it goes.
Hey, Bruce, 5-minute Lonewolf. I'll get you a beer for having to play Dan. It'll be fun. So the alcohol will make him look even hotter than he actually is.
Oh, Dan is a fantastic game, regardless of results.
That's dangerous.
Alrighty. Moving on to Andrew Mitten and Jesse Garrett, another Austin local.
I'll take Andrew's list.
I'll go ahead and take Jesse's since he is around here. Jesse is running Forces of Nature. He has a horde of Forest Shamblers, a horde of Air Elementals with Hammer of Measured Force, 2 hordes of Earth Elementals, a horde of Scorchwings with Helm of Confidence, a horde of Riverborn Naiad Worm Riders with Staying Stone, the correct waiver mitigation item, Greater Air Elemental, a Pegasus, a Glade Walker Druid with Surge 8 and the Ring of Harmony, like you do, as we've seen, 2 tree herders, one as the Wilt Father, another as you do. And the other one's stock. Coming out at 11 units, so hyper elite, and 22 unit strength.
And Andrew's playing our favorite army, Ogres. He is taking a Boomer Chariot troop with the Sacred Horn, horde of hunters with Brew of Haste, making him speed 8. 2 hordes of siege breakers, one with the Chalice, the other with Staying Stone. A Crocdog Wrangler, 2 Goblin Blasters, Mammoth with the Big Deal upgrade, Ogre Warlock with the Conjure Staff and Drain Life 5, Nom Nom, and I think this is the first Hell on Wheels formation we've seen.
Yes.
So Warlord on Chariot, which gets Rally 1 for Chariots, and then 2 regiments of Ogre Chariots, which get Rampager D3, I think it is.
Looks like it based on their profile. Rampage D3.
Yeah. 13 drops, 20 unit strength. Yeah, I like both these lists. I think that ogres match up really well against a low drop army though, like this. I think Jesse wants his stuff to stick around, but ogres are too brutal to. I think a lot of stuff in Andrew's list can pick up in one shot, even some of these defense 6 units with a couple combo charges. Yeah. What do you guys think?
It's really tough to play lone wolf scenarios with only 11 drops. That really scares me going into the environment that the tournament's going to be played in. 11 drops is just super low, especially when you're playing an army like Adam said that can punch, that doesn't mind, playing against high defense stuff. So, but that low drops does concern me somewhat.
Also, only 10 scoring drops is the other, because one of those is an individual on top of all that.
Yeah. I'd almost like to see if he could find the points to drop that Forest Shambler regiment or horde to go with
the horde.
The horde to go with air elemental formation.
Yeah,
because he's got 2/3 of the pieces, right? Just spring for some points, but it's a very lean list already as it is, so I don't know what he would have to do. I like the Helm of Confidence on the Scorch Wings because they're acting as solo agents most of the time, so I think that's a clutch play to protect them from random whoopsie dice that could happen. But
I'm personally not a huge fan of Worm Riders, but that could be just my play style tendency. Just a defense forward speed 7. I feel like they're this kind of weird in the middle sort of unit. I would maybe have not liked to see that in something else, but that could be a total just like personal preference thing on my end. But
yep, and lifting that 87-pound unit because it's still in metal. Good lord. But the interesting thing is, even though he's got less drops, he has more unit strength than the ogre list, surprisingly. So he'll actually outtrade decently well. And he's got the Gladewalker Druid to any kind of bit shots will do better against, because the blasters are as good as dead. You can write them off. The Crocodile Wrangler doesn't score. So that's 3 of the drops. So that's almost even, from a perspective. But it's so the drop in unit strength battle in this fight is actually, I feel, more in Jesse's favor. Especially with the air elementals and Scorch Wings, he's a little bit more maneuverable than the ogres are. Even though there are some chariots, he doesn't have the nimble to kind of get where he needs to.
It's worth noting that those chariots are getting literally no benefit.
Rampage, not Slayer. Yeah, that's also true.
Not a single unit in this list other than the Druid.
Yeah.
There's their target. Go get them.
Yeah.
What does the formation give the chariots?
Rampage.
and it gives a rally 1 to the warlord on the chariot, which the rally 1 will also extend to the boomer chariots, who's probably vibing behind that wall.
12, 14.
Yeah.
It's not nothing, but
Yeah. 16, 18 on the chariot regiments is not at all a bad nerve. It's just that
huge.
No,
Yeah.
it's, if you can hit actual infantry, granted it's not going to happen in this list, but you're looking
Right.
at 16 to 18 kind of melee 3 attacks. Like those chariot regiments do work.
Yeah, they're pretending to be nice. They get 1 less attack, but they have Thunder 2, Crush 1. They've got height to see over hills. Like I love Ogre Chariots. I think they're some of the best in the game. I just don't know how they stack up in this particular matchup. I mean, especially with the Thunder 2, the Crush 1, they're going to hit these defense 6 walls and they're going to hurt.
I just wish they had terrain items. I would drop the
Yeah.
formation to give them terrain items, because otherwise, you're right. They're super scary. I mean, Andrew's list is unusual because it actually has a really strong flank. Like I'm guessing he wants to run his speed 8 hunters quasi cav. I mean, they are cav at that point with the warlord and the chariot regiments and the boomer chariot, giving that whole little formation stealthy. And then he's got a pretty strong center with the siege breakers and the mammoth and the blasters. So I see how it works. It's just, I think those chariots, their punch is going to get taken away and they're going to get stuck on something. So I like both lists. I don't think I tweak both of them slightly, but they're both very good. Jesse's a good player. I played him at Samurai Showdown. He was running a similar list, except he was running it as herd. So he had like the Lycan fast element, but he played his tree herders extremely well against me. And so I'm going to go with Jesse in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jesse too. I think he has some speed, nice speed things he can use to sort of make those chariots not hit as hard as well. And I think it's just a couple extra tools in his toolbox. So I'm going to go with Jesse as well, I think.
Yeah, I'll also throw my hat in the Jesse ring. I think when you kind of peel back the covers, yes, in most scenarios, the 11 drops or the 10 scoring drops and the 22 unit strength will hurt him. But this isn't one of those matchups, and he's got a little bit better grind outside the siege breakers because of that double heal from the Ring of Harmony and the radiance from the tree cutter. So I'm going to leave it to him.
I'm going to disagree because Brutal 2 doesn't allow for heal to happen. You just kill him straight up. So I think Andrew has the punch necessary. I think that, yes, Jesse has some elements that are faster, but Andrew has enough fast elements that it's going to force Jesse into probably some positions he wouldn't want to be in otherwise. So I think that Andrew's going to win in the end.
Yeah, I've known Jesse for about as long as I've known Lex. He's also old Austin people, like back from the Warhammer Fantasy days, came over into Kings. Took him a little bit longer, but he's playing Kings now. So he's a good player by all means, but I think he's still kind of learning kind of the ropes of Kings in general, and like what good Kings lists look like. I think he's gotten the movement of Kings down really well. So I think he'll do well. Like I think he'll definitely place like top 50%. But I think against this list, I agree with Adam. It's going to be close, but I think the Brutal 2 really carries it. Like it's just going to be all this defense 6 gets deleted in one turn, and then there's no chance to heal. But it'll be a fun watch. That's for sure. So I might also be biased for Chariots. Let's be fair.
Yep, that's what did it.
And like you guys were saying earlier, just really interesting. Lots of ogres, lots of nature lists. I feel like we've seen a lot of similar lists so far tonight.
This is at least a different ogre list.
I mean, it does still have,
but yeah, it does still have the big deal. But otherwise, it's not as many siege breakers. I mean, siege breakers is still kind of.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think siege breakers have been in pretty much everyone except for maybe Nick's version where he just had all regiments. So,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
every single one of them has had Nam, and I will be surprised if that doesn't continue.
Yeah. Hint, hint. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. I know John's been staying up for this. So John Hogue versus Mike Hart. Another Austin local. And then Mike Hart, who I don't know.
I'll read John's list.
Okay, but you have to read out every single custom name.
Okay.
Yes,
So
please.
John's list, if you haven't seen it, it's a very flavorful, really cool, evil, demented carnival. Night Stalker army. So he's got 2 regiments of scarecrows, the carnival game, and the carnival maze of death. 2 legions of bloodworms, the circus ring main attraction, and the spider ride. One has brew of strength, one has hammer of measured force. 2 troops of phantoms, the bumper cars and bumper cars. 2 hordes of butchers, the clown train and clown train. He's got a mind screech, the cashier with Twisty the clown portrait. He's got horror riff weavers, the boxing sideshow, and the organ grinder and monkey. He's got a horde of fiends with sharpness, the clown car, and unicyclists. Got a shade, the banhammer clown. Oh, don't want to piss that guy off. And then a horror, which is the rabbit in the hat magician. So high unit strength, 28 unit strength with 14 drops.
Yeah, don't forget that Banner of Abbottshire in the shade, which helps shore up the one weakness of Night Stalkers, which
Night
is lightning
Stalkers.
bolts.
Yeah, sorry, I did miss that. So the spell ward banner on the shade.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Because he
you
needed
take the
3.
monster. I'll read Mike's list. So Mike Hart, I don't know. It says he's from Houston, so maybe he's a nuke guy, which would be awesome. He's playing Abyssal Dwarves. He's got 2 regiments of Mortal Guard with Mastiffs, a regiment and a horde of Slave Orcs, horde of Decimators, a troop of Half-Breeds, a horde of Lesser Obsidian Golems, a regiment of Grotesques, 2 Mortars, a Slave Driver, Overmaster with Dark Lord's Onyx Ring. That's actually pretty interesting. I like that. Abyssal Grotesque Champion, Dravik Dulkeen, and Infernoc. So that's 15 drops and 23 unit strength.
What does the Onyx Ring do?
1 turn region 4, I think, if I remember. But his does not have the items listed. Damn, I'd have to go dig up Easy Army. Someone else.
That sounds right. I think that tracks. If not 4, it might be lower, but I think it's probably region 4 for the first time you take wounds.
Yeah, think that's what it is. If someone
No,
can
I'm pretty
confirm.
sure it's 4, and you have to use it the first turn you take damage. I don't think you can
Yes,
choose the whole
that's
lot.
what it is.
Yeah, that is spicy. I like it.
It's an interesting list. There's a lot of just kind of everything.
It's very harkens back to Tony's list where it's like, I'm taking what I have. I'm taking 1 box of this, 1 box of this, 1 box of this. So
Did he take Dulkin without the Infernox?
no, he did.
He
Okay, Infernox.
It's the
Yeah,
last, yep.
Okay.
It's really hard to remember the difference between Infernoc, Infernox, Charnox, because they're all the same.
Yeah.
Because apparently, when you've been underground for 40 years, you just can't name things good. So.
No, you can't.
Yeah, Mike's list feels a little bit like he bought a couple of the mega armies and, maybe a pack of the Grotesques or something, and was trying to put them together, which is awesome. I mean, it's not a bad list.
Yeah.
It's just a little one-off of everything.
I like how when you read off the heavy mortars, you were just like the mortars, and I'm like, they do have a light mortar. You know that, right? No one ever takes it.
No,
but
they
have
don't because they don't ever get taken. They have to get taken to have a white border option.
Matt, you remember he's playing against Night Stalkers, so it doesn't fucking matter.
It
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
no, I agree. He'll never hit anything.
So this is actually, if Mike's new, playing John is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
John's an awesome dude to play. That's for
It'll be
sure.
a nice introduction to the hobby. See everything that John's modeled, which it's a phenomenal looking army.
Two legions of bloodworms.
Yeah, can we talk
Yeah.
about who gave them
He's
fury
dirty.
and one extra nerve? Because like you can throw everything at them and still just screw up, and it's still going to come back and delete whatever it touches for no reason whatsoever.
They might as well be dash 28 because no amount of shooting takes out this. So it's just like, yeah.
I don't know. There's enough Glade Stalkers anymore.
Well,
they could die.
And we haven't
Maybe,
seen
man.
that list yet, so
yeah,
no dash 28.
Yet. Okay.
yeah. Brew's strength and hammer measured force. The hammer measured force one. I mean, they have 40 attacks too. It's the highest volume of attacks in the game in terms of just sheer dice rolling.
And I bet dollars to donuts that shade or
Also-
that horde's going to be hanging out nearby with a vicious or just a
Or
insult injury.
vicious.
Yep.
Yep.
And I
Gotta
mean,
get
they hit
it
on
in there.
fours. It's like the old school zombie legion with brew of sharpness. You know what I mean? It's 40
Yep.
attacks on fours with brew
Hammer
of
measured
strength and
force.
hammer, like fours and fours.
Consistent 10 here. Yeah.
Unit strength 5.
Yeah, because they're not. I hate this unit so much. Like,
I mean, to be fair, it's 290 points, so it
Yep.
is a lot, but it gets a lot. And Life Leech too because they need it. So
Yeah.
but
And
yeah,
like you
that's,
said,
that's
Mike's-
10 unit strength that's going to live till the end of the game, though. Like, yes, it's 600 points, but it's 600 points of staying there till the end of the game.
And Mike's list is not bad. It's just like a newer players list, right? Where you're taking a little bit of everything and you don't quite have as much focus. But again, John is a good guy. His army's really creative and cool. So he would be definitely, if you were coming to a tournament, maybe for you haven't gone to and as many, he's going to start you off on your tournament adventure on a good foot. So I think you guys are going to have a great game.
John is super fun to play, in my opinion. He's just really nice dude. This list is like, it's not one that will win best painted, but if it doesn't win every player's choice vote ever, like, it's so fun to look at.
John, you need to take the 5-point penalty and swap that lightning bolt for Bane Chant. I don't know why you have lightning bolt on your horror. That has to be a mistake.
I'm looking at the wrong list.
It doesn't
yeah,
make
he didn't take the free swap.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he thinks that Lightning Bolt 3 is going to win him games.
The Shade also needs to have Beast Slayer and not Abishire, but that's or be Shakira.
Yeah. So let's just move on from those bloodworms and let's talk about the real MVPs, which are the Horror Rift Weavers. He has 2 of them, which every good Night Stalker army should. So, these things are disgusting. Great value for 110 points. It's a mini giant hitting on 3s. And sure, the defense 3, low nerve, but you get Aura Spell Ward and Dread in the package on a nimble 50 millimeter base. They're not your frontliners, but damn, they follow up hard.
John, I
there's
don't
a
know
lot
if you're
to
still in
love
the
that
chat.
profile.
Did you take the wolf or the sharpshooter? I would imagine you took the ranger.
He took the shooter. I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know that, but if he didn't, he definitely needs to resubmit his list. So
Yeah, with so much dread in the list, like,
yeah.
Also, John, I'm gonna throw you an idea here if you don't already have it. If you don't have a bearded lady, that is your Shakira. Like, model that now. Like, bring that.
yeah. This is what I'm talking about. I mean, butcher hordes, like, they're still not bad. Like, I know we talked about it earlier, but like,
Well,
yeah,
they
hit on
they
fours.
make more sense in Night Stalkers than they do in Twilight Kin, I think.
Sure, that is fair. Because in Twilight Kin, you're looking for chaff as opposed to Night Stalkers, where you're looking
You
for
have other
for
choices
crush.
to fill that role exactly, but
Right.
solid.
I would like to see some Reapers, but I know John's been tailoring this list for a long time. And the real, like, I know Adam said we should move away from the Bloodworms legions, but like, realistically, these things are just so fucking tanky. They just don't go away.
And they're big enough to where like they have a decent amount of area denial because you don't want to get close, and it can just keep walking up to you because it doesn't care if it takes 4 charges. It's going to, oh no, you wavered me. Countercharge. This first thing I charged is dead.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what's going to happen is maybe one of the things that you then slide over for that you didn't charge, that makes the opening for the Rift Weavers to kind of just shoot in and then pick something up. So it's plan A and plan B.
That's a good point. John commented on the Bane Chant or Lightning Bolt over Bane Chant option. He said that he kept forgetting to cast it on 5s with his own spell ward bumping it up. So he just said he didn't want to take it.
John is being so nice of a player that he wouldn't take Bane Chant because he would accidentally forget to roll it on 5s, is what that translated to.
Exactly.
I mean, John's going to win this matchup. It's going to be funny when the hammer bloodworms eat that golem horde in one turn. There's just like the abyssal doors are not getting through either legion. So
yeah,
it doesn't even matter the rest of the list. They're just not getting through 2 legions.
I mean, if the decimators get 4 turns of shooting, he can do it.
Yeah.
It has to be unhindered, though.
There's just too much unrefined in this. Like the troop of half-breeds, the regiment of grotesques, the like just the kind of oddity offshoot stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an Abyssal Dwarf list that you could craft up that I would like taking into this kind of Night Stalker list. I think it's just one of those kind of matchups where you're just like, that sucks, and kind of just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So I mean,
maybe you could do Aaron Chapman style, and you could go just all the slave orcs and say, hey, I got more unit strength than you, so
potentially, yeah.
Bloodworms can only kill 1 unit a turn, so
here's 6 more behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have a fun game, but I think John's got this. That's my vote.
Keep it simple. Yep, John.
Gotcha.
Yep, I think it's a sweep.
Sweep for John. Okay.
Yep.
I'll hold it to that. Let me get up next. Hank, you're in 2 matches, for the record. All right.
So what I'm hearing is take as long as possible so Hank stays up too late.
I think we're doing all of them tonight, so we could just come back to Hank around 2 a.m.
Wasn't it Grant Fetter who wanted us to do a marathon? I'm just like, no, God, no. I learned my lesson at Masters. All right, moving on to our next match. Let me get our banner up here. We've got David Sweat versus Roger Hedgepeth. Thank you. See, I did it even though we talked about it earlier. David is our ringer. So this is the ringer matchup. This is the lucky number 70. Because it's table 14. Which was the
Ringer's playing goblins. What type of trash is this?
No, the Ringer's on the nature.
No. Ringer's playing nature.
Oh, never mind.
Roger is playing the singular goblin list that made it in.
Continue.
I'll go ahead and read off our goblin player. If someone wants to read off David's list.
I can read David's.
Starting with goblins, we have 4 regiments of rabble, 2 hordes of troll, 1 with dwarven ale, 1 with chalice of wrath, as you do, 2 mincer mobs. Both are regiments, 1 with brew of strength, 1 with Jesse's boots of striding, 3 mincers, lots of mincers, 3 goblin blasters, a king who is upgraded to Groany Snark, speed 10, fly thunders 2, blast D3, melee.
Bullshit.
Many winged flights.
Everybody knows what this shit does by now. Just continue.
I haven't seen this before. That's new to me.
Matt,
but we don't have.
You're gonna.
We don't have goblin players in Austin.
You will learn one day.
Apparently, it's pretty fucking funny. A Flaget Whiz with Inspiring Talisman, Flaget with Loot of Insatiable Darkness, so Bane Chant 2, like you do. A Whiz with Inspiring Talisman, Bane Chant 2, and Knowledgeable so that he can sneak in Barkskin and Magua and Jews, and Grogger's Luglads, which are a horde of Luggets with Brutal Crushing 1 and Wild Charge D3, respectively. Clocking in at 19 unit strength 19 units, 28 unit strength.
All right. And David's bringing Force of Nature. To the surprise of many, he's been working real hard on this. So he's actually, I've seen it. He's got them all finished painted. It looks beautiful. So he starts it off with a horde of Earth Elementals with the Liliana's Tear. 2 hordes of Water Elementals. 1 Beast of Nature. Doesn't have Fly, but does have 7 attacks. A Greater Earth Elemental. Yes. I think it was a points thing. A Greater Earth Elemental. Gladewalker Druid with Shroud of the Saint. Surge 8. Mounted on a Steed and Ring of Harmony. Another Gladewalker Druid with Crown of the Wizard King and Surge 8 for extra range for the Healing Surge. Unicorn with Conjure Staff, Lightning Bolt 5, and with Wings. And then the Air Elemental formation. 1's Drunken Ram. 1 of the hordes is Measured Force, and then you put Lightning Bolt on the Greater Air Elemental. It's 11 total units at 19 unit strength.
Drunken Ram's an interesting choice on an Air Elemental horde.
You have enough Pathfinder everywhere. I've seen it done before. I think Mark Bryson, I think I saw, I've seen him do it as well. And because you can kind of pick your fights and it only matters where you land, not where you start, that you're pretty good at making sure they're not coming in hindered.
Yeah, but they lose Pathfinder.
Yeah,
Right, but taking off because they fly.
They have Fly, so technically, yeah. Okay. Since they have Fly, it's better.
It's like White Syndrome, where it's like, oh, look, I'm a piece of shit. I'm just going to fly over things.
You're going to ignore the terrain because you're flying out of it as opposed to into it most of the time is your goal. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think there's a mistake on the Goblin list. They don't have Host Shadow
Beast to make Grony Stark a giant POS.
Yeah, they took Barkskin instead of Host Shadow Beast, so I think that's just a typo. Should get it fixed real quick here, but
yeah, and with this surprisingly being a defensive, although I guess actually if you think about it, your Barkskin actually fires off of the defense of 4, not the defense of 6 from Big Shield. So
yeah, it's good for the Big Shield, but I don't know if it's that good because you're getting an extra 2 to 3 wounds essentially. I don't think it tops a Grani Snark doing 19 wounds. So
yeah, no, that's stupid. And then you should take the other one too. I think with Host Shadow Beast, you always want 2 targets to make it worth it.
Are you talking about the grunt nail where I'm going to charge something and weakness it, and then I'm ensnared so you can't ever hurt me back?
Yep, that's the one.
That dude's a loser.
I think
such a fun army to play against.
I think that Magua and Joe is actually a better target because 7 attacks, crushing 2, hitting on 3s is really good. And he has Duelist, so if he ever gets into an individual and you Host Shadow Beast him, he can get like 22 attacks and just delete any individual in the game. It's pretty nutty.
Maybe we can make this short and sweet. I think the Goblins are going to get all the charges. They have all the rabble regiments. Even if they do get punched in the face first, it's not going to hurt them because of all the big shield, and the counter punch is going to be pretty devastating and just enough crushing to get through the Nature's defense. So I think Roger's got this one.
Yeah, and I just can't spiritually or whatever get over like giving an item that takes away Pathfinder from one of your units. I mean, I get it. It's probably not a super big deal here, but Pathfinder is so good to give up for just doesn't feel right. So I'm gonna go with the goblins too.
I'm going to go with the 19 units over the 19 unit strength list. So goblins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think ultimately the goblins had it, but the Helm of the Drunken Ram doesn't turn me off as much as the unflying beast of nature. I think it just comes down to you need a little bit more quality of attacks, and I don't know if you have that in the nature list because it's really only coming from the air elementals because there's a lot of melee 4 outside of that. So
as a point here, the Helm of the Drunken Ram, losing it doesn't lose you anything because it's already crushing 0 anyway. So it's like, does it factor in or does it not? It doesn't actually. I mean, it's annoying because it's 20 points, and I wish that was upgrading this to flying.
Does fly only 20 points on that?
I think it's a little bit more. I think it's
I think it's like 45.
It might be 20, 35.
You drop the lightning bolt on the greater air elemental.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be a
20
model
points.
thing because I don't think you would not take it. You not find the points to take it. So it's got to be
Most
a
beasts
model.
of nature are 205 points, so it's a 40-point upgrade.
Okay, then that
Good
answers
math
that
there.
question.
Good math.
Because yeah, like, why would you not take it? It's so good. So yeah, with all that in mind, I'm in favor of the Scotland list. Also because it's the only goblin list in the tournament. So
I'm going to claim a little bit of mea culpa because I think I helped David write this list and I overlooked that. So my bad, man.
Also,
We now know who to blame.
What
That's
unit
fair.
does Grani go into and not kill? Maybe the Greater Earth Elemental? I think he has everything else just under. Yeah, he just murders everything else one shot.
yeah, I mean this is the
I don't think
the
he
ringer.
one-shots anything without Host Shadow Beast, but he's going to annoy the piss out of most of the units in the army. I will give you that.
Oh yeah, I'm saying with Shadow Beast, but yeah.
All right. So we all universally think that the ringer won't beat the not ringer.
Yes.
Go figure.
Mhm.
Three more to go for tonight. We've got Hank Gouge versus Nathan Arnold. Jeremy, if you want to take Hank's.
Sure. So Hank is playing Varengur. So he's got 3 regiments of Draugr, 2 hordes of snow trolls. Snow trolls, I think, are great. One has Chalice of Wrath. One has Dwarven Ale. A regiment of mounted sons with Mead of Madness, and they're the brand of the warrior, gaining brutal. Some Tundra Wolves with Caterpillar, a regiment. 2 Jabberwocks, a Magus with Drain Life 6, a Lord on Frostfang with Slashing, the Lord on Chimera with Trickster's Wand, and what is this guy, Krufiner? I've never played against him. It looks like a special character guy. 14-16. Bring me their head is choose a friendly core bloodbound unit within 12, regardless of line of sight, and that unit gains duelist until end of turn.
Bloodbound looks like Sons of Korgan for the record, and both Jabberwocks. And the Lord on Frostbite. It's actually a decent amount of the list.
But we all know Hank's got a beautiful army. Definitely another army to go check out if you're at Lone Wolf and haven't had a chance to see his army. Make sure you go check it out.
Is this correct? He has Rampage 3, not D3?
Oh my god.
That seems pretty good, if it is.
Yeah. RC didn't mess that one up by making it a random roll.
It's
I mean-
got to be D3. I'll look.
It might actually be 3. If it is, it makes it the best rampage in the game.
Absolutely, easily.
I'll go ahead and read off Nathan's here. He's bringing Night Stalkers. He's got 3 regiments of Reapers, the Straw Pigs, the Stick Pigs, and the Brick Pigs. Fantastic. 5 regiments of Needle Fangs, The pied ones 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, respectively. A horde of butchers, the dwarves. A horde of fiends, the wolves, with the potion of the caterpillar. 2 regiments of soul flayers, the lying tailors 1 and 2, respectively. A void lurker, the big red wolf, with mead of madness. A horror, Maleficent, with Baneshant 2 and Weakness 2, and Aura Vicious, like you do. And a Reaper Soul Drinker, Snow White, with the no.
Well, I haven't seen this army. Is it like a fairy tale models? Basically, I'm getting from the names.
If he didn't do that, then I'm going to be really sad.
Okay, so I haven't seen this one of Nathan's yet, so I just didn't know if you guys had seen this army.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either. I think this might be its maiden voyage outside of San
Cool.
Antonio.
Well, I'm looking forward. It sounds like a cool theme. So
5 needle fangs. It's a lot of chaff.
I think that's needed for this style of list, though. You got 3 Reapers, a Butcher Horde, a Fiend Horde. You need something to deliver them. And then you also have 2 Soul Flayers. So, yeah, I like it. Good number of drops, 15 drops, 25 unit strength. Yeah, I like what the Night Stalkers are bringing to the table here.
0 shooting. Very Texas tradition.
They got Soul Flares. You got to shoot with a Wind Blast.
Yeah. 0 damaging shooting.
No, it does mental damage.
Unless it has... Nathan, I just saw you pop in the chat. Do you have the wolf or the ranger? I'm actually curious.
I think he has the wolf. There's no other dread.
Yeah, there's no other dread.
He has to be taking the wolf with this.
He's got to take the wolf with this theme, right?
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
No Whataburger for him if he didn't take the wolf in this list.
Yeah.
So theme-wise, this may be one of the coolest round 1 tables we have, right? Nick's got a great theme and beautiful painted on his army, and it's sounding like for Nathan, he's got a cool theme going. So this would have been a fun one to stream too. I think.
Nathan's taking the ranger.
Yes, the ranger. Damn it.
Wrong again. Boo.
I think that's the wrong list choice, if not necessarily.
Already have too many wolves, he says.
Yeah.
Well, the fiend unit is the wolves, so that's where it's
sure.
I mean, the ranger could be the huntsman. So
yeah.
Okay.
As long
I
as
just
you got
feel
a cool model.
The no brutal and lack of dread is like a perfect combination for the wolf for sure.
Yeah.
And then Hank says he has the ranger in his list.
Looking at Hank's list.
Which
Man, I feel like the wolf would be good in your list too.
Yeah, he has the brutal on the Mounted Sons, which, in my opinion, should have been stealthy. But
if you have a flying monster, I think you need to take the wolf because being able to rear surge a dragon,
rear charge Julius,
so stupid. That's why I'm
my whole
taking
mission
2
for
flying
Lonewolf.
monsters.
Make Mark Cox regret ever introducing a surge mechanic as a one-off ability.
Yes, and for mocking me for asking whether you can surge wavered units. Like, that was a stupid question. Anyway, I think
both these guys have a big dragon, a Lord on Chimera and a Void Lurker on the other side, respectively, and they're both taking the Ranger. So
yeah,
they're pretty evenly matched lists.
I think it's a really interesting matchup. Actually, this is they're like you're saying, Tom. They're definitely like matching up. Both have big flyers. Both have a lot of punchiness on each side. Have some throwaway stuff.
I just don't like Reapers. Like, as a rule, I really don't like Reapers.
Why?
Because they're not as good as Soul Reavers.
Because they waver so easily, like super easily.
They're so points efficient for damage output, though.
But Tom, that's why you have 5 needle fangs to deliver them, so they don't get wavered.
Yeah, how you gonna waver them? We can't fucking see them. Height 1 though, so like theoretically, some shooting's still gonna plink in.
Yeah, but stealthy plus plus cover. I mean,
I
the
mean,
only
so
thing
far-
he's missing is Spell Ward, which if only they had a Spell Ward aura.
Yeah. I will say we've only seen like 2 lists that had some solid shooting. We had one list with a couple Glade Stalkers, and we had the Dwarf shooting list, basically.
Oh, the rats
We
too.
had
And
Matt
Hasnick's
Young's.
Yeah.
We had Matt
Matt
Young's
Young did
Boomer.
have. That's true. He had boomers and 3 boomer
He
sergeants. So
went
that was,
Boomer.
yeah, that was a hefty amount. That's true.
I think this will be the one time in the history of humanity where the icy breath on the Lord on Chimera might actually get good use clearing out those needle fangs, because that never ever gets used, and this is like the pre-ammo target for him.
Yeah.
But is he going to get within 10 inches to shoot that on a unit?
I mean,
if he's flying
He can
out of
post up
arc
on
to
the
set up
flank,
like
yeah.
flank charges, yeah, you know what I mean.
Sure.
I always find that the breath is like you commit to the charge because that's how you play the dragon, and then once you've committed, this is the oh crap, I did, like, after everything shook out and I reformed and I tried to put stuff into arc, somehow everything made it out of arc, so I needed something to do on the turn that I'm repositioning. That's how this ends up working.
Yeah.
I think Hank's list overall is still probably a little bit better than Nathan's, but like I would highly recommend Hank pay very close attention to these Reapers, because they will end things. They're only slightly under Soul Reapers in terms of efficiency.
Or a Vicious helps them come to par, I think. So
Yeah. I mean,
especially
if Nathan can deliver them, I wonder. I don't know how much they've been playing in San Antonio. I know they've been playing some Armada and some Dead Zone. Maybe Nathan, if he's still in the chat, he can speak to. I wonder. I don't know if they've been playing Kings that much lately, or if he's played this list in a tournament before. I'm curious, or if this is the first go with it.
Mm-hmm. I know that Hank's been playing this against Jeff Swan pretty regularly.
Oh,
so
Hank's
we've
got
got-
Hank is
that's the
dialed in.
point I was going to bring up too.
Yeah.
Y'all stole
Yeah.
it from me. It's
is
at the end of the day, lists are pretty equal, but one of them's Jeff Swan's child, and then the other one is playing the Dregs of San Antonio. All respect to y'all. Y'all are fun people, but that's not where the power gamers of Texas reside. So,
right.
But Nathan is. I mean, I played Nathan. He is a really tough opponent, and if he can deliver those Reapers well and has practice, blocking those angles, those units can super chew through. Okay, so he said he's been playing it mostly on UB.
Mhm.
But has 3 physical. So he's played. So when I hear that, I played it on UB. I have 3 physical games. To me, that's you played it enough to not be on round 1 looking at your army list, figuring out what your stuff does, because you hopefully by then you know it well enough. So
Right.
yeah, this is going to be a really interesting. This is one of my, like, if I was voting this would like vote
stream.
for 3 stream games. This definitely would be one of my stream games.
Nathan's stuff is also usually painted exceptionally well, or at the very least has a very cohesive theme on top of it.
Oh, he's a theme guy up the, maybe even if the technical paint isn't at his buddy's level, his theme is always always really great. Theme wise, his armies are always really fun to look at, and like I said, just super solid, clean, tactical player.
So what do we think? I'll go ahead and give it to Tom to start this one.
I like Nathan's list a little bit better, but I don't think the Reapers will get through all the regenning trolls. Even though Nathan's going to get all the charges, I know that Hank will play tight, so I'm going to give it to Hank.
Jeremy?
I'm really excited to see Nathan and to see his army. I think snow trolls are really undervalued, especially with waiver mitigation items. And I know that they're both playing, but I think Hank just plays in a little bit harder of a weekly game, and is maybe playing against a little bit harder competition. So I'm going to go Hank too, but this is, like I said, I think this one's going to be really close. I would not be surprised at all. And if Nathan does pull it out, that means his Whataburger will be on me. So either way, you win, you get free Whataburger. You lose, I'll still buy you a Whataburger to cheer you up. So either way, you're getting a free Whataburger out of this round 1. So
Way
got
to
that going
motivate
for you.
him, Jeremy. Way
Yeah,
to
you know,
motivate
I
him.
mean, I probably could have thought of something better to say, but you know,
I'll
Whatever.
go next and say that one, I'll point out that Jeremy has 5 for 5 now, all his Titans buddies. But with good reasons in a lot of them, so there's that. But in honesty, I think this one is probably in favor of Hank just on list, if nothing else. Just by a smidge. And player caliber is actually really hard for me to tell in this one because I know Nathan's been playing more and I know Hank's been playing more, and they've both definitely ramped up their games recently. Like they're definitely top half of the room in my mind. If not necessarily putting them on general, if nothing else, but it's going to be a really fun match to watch. But I think I'll give it to Hank by just a smidge. So 100%, it's the game to stream.
Were you giving me crap about voting for Titans? That just registered in my head. Okay, I take it back. Hank, you're going down. Nathan is going to win. I'm changing my vote. We're gonna win, and then we're gonna go eat Whataburger and rub the patties all over our bodies afterwards. So I'm voting for Nathan now.
So what happened was Jeremy just checked his bank account, saw he can't afford 2 Whataburgers, so he's rescinding that offer.
With gas costs, I don't know, inflation. How much are Whataburgers now in Texas? So
About a gallon of gas, yeah.
Yeah. I too am going to go for Hank. I think these are 2 very, very good players. They're very solid lists. I just think the quality of opponent that Hank's running up against, if he can deal with the annoyingness that is Jeff Swan, every week, twice a week, I think his micro plays might be a little bit more refined, and so he'll see something and be able to kind of take it there. So go Hank.
I just see a battle in the chat here where Nathan's like, people forget I podiumed at Lonewolf, and then Hank comes back, I podiumed too. So I got to go with the Night Stalkers. I think that it's a good list overall. Just going to be blatantly biased that I think Night Stalkers are great because I'm playing them. So Nate, don't do me dirty. Win this one.
I just keep going through these lists. Like, I don't want to fight that. I don't want to fight that. I don't want to fight that.
that's the message of the night, which is I don't want to play.
It's okay. You'll get to my list tomorrow, and then you'll
I
be
don't
like,
wanna
oh,
play
no,
any
that's something
of
I can
these.
do up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure that the second day's worth of lists won't be anything like that either.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if anybody else can hear Matt, but I lost audio on Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, I was muting myself because I was laughing so fucking hard.
Okay.
I'll read
All
the
right.
next list.
Okay, I was gonna say moving right along to our second to last one for tonight.
This Mike's list isn't Tom's list.
Wait, yeah, it looks
This
very
is actually
different
my
than your list.
exact
Tom.
same Trident Realm list. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Mike's doing Trident Realms. I've seen him play probably 10 armies at this point, but I've never seen him play Trident Realms.
I played against this list last weekend, so I have some things to say. But
Okay,
continue.
Cool. Naiad and Stir Horde, as you do. 2 Heartpiercer regiments, as you do. Chan of Hate, so got some Hate Frogs. 2 Leviathan's Bane. I've never seen anybody take those, but I don't hate it. Naiad Wormrider Centurion, Stankstone, Aquamage with Weakness, and Alchemist Curse. I guess he also has Icy Breath 10. Mythican with Barkskin, Conjure Staff. Ector, Trident King, and the Hidden Ones formation. So that's 2 Thule regiments and a Thule Mythican. Giving them Wind Blast 5 for some scenario play, I'm guessing. That's 14 drops, but only 19 unit strength. A lot of individuals, I think.
Yes.
And I guess I can read Will's
Cool.
So Will's taking dwarves. He starts off with a horde of siege breakers, shield breakers. Not siege breakers, shield breakers. Brew of Haste and the Throwing Mastiff. He's got 2 troops of berserkers. You don't see those often. With Slayer melee d6, so that'll actually be exciting to see how those look. 2 regiments, troops of sharpshooters. I can't read today. A regiment of berserker Brock Riders with the caterpillar potion. There it is, the Iron Belcher organ gun. A steel behemoth that has been upgraded to Gollop's Fury. A dwarf lord on large beast with the trickster's wand, because I'm pretty sure that's how they come nowadays. The amulet of the stone priest with the amulet of the Fireheart. Bane Chant 2, replacing Surge with Radiance of Life for dwarves, because he's got no elementals, and Library Scorched Earth. And then the Royal Guard formation. So 2 regiments of bulwarkers, both have dogs. One has the Orb of Towering Presence, so it's unit strength 4 and a nice little compact package. Then a horde of Iron Guard with Brew Strength and a Throwing Mastiff. All of those are hitting on 3s, and they get elite aura from the Standard Bearer, which I imagine would also be thrown up on the Shield Breaker horde as well for a little bit of spiciness. Clocks in at 14 total units and 23 unit strength.
I might be wrong on this. Berserker Brock Riders, don't they have an inherent Pathfinder upgrade that's only 15 points for the unit?
That is only on free dwarves, I believe, not
Okay.
on Imperial, because he's got sharpshooters and Galax. These are Imperials.
All right. I thought it was on both, but I could be wrong because I don't play dwarves.
All right, Jeremy, help us understand Mike's list because I don't get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we had a tournament in Reno, and I will say that Mike's list, looking at paper, makes no sense. You play it, and you're trying to understand what's happening, and it makes no sense. And if he doesn't clock out, the odds are that he'll win. But it's just this weird, hyper-technical push-pull where he's pulling you in range of the Naiad Heart Piercers with the Leviathan Banes, shooting you, and then wind blasting you back out of range. He's moving his characters around. So it's a super high technical control type list where he's in terrain, he's pushing you into terrain. So if you charge out of it, you're hindered and snare, right, against both his things. The only problem is, as at Reno, I think he timed out 2 or 3 of the 5 games he timed out. And in our last game, I was like, let's just deploy off the clock because we started a little bit before the round began. And he was like, Jeremy, I love you. So it's one of those things where it's like, if he can play it and not time out, it's effective, but it's got a lot of moving pieces. It's super hyper technical, like I said. So against this list, I think this is a little bit harder matchup for him because there is some dwarf shooting. There's some his list, the Thule, it's like high volume attacks, right? Where against 15, 17, they do really well, but those Thule aren't going to kill hordes, right? And then that's the type of stuff dwarf hordes want to be fighting against because it's such low defense. They don't need any of the crushing. So, I mean, I think it's a good list. A lot of people are going to play Mike's list and be like, what does Leviathan's Bane do? You're pulling me what? But I think in this particular list, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher matchup for Mike.
Yeah, it's interesting because you think at face value, like you can manipulate the movement of the dwarves all over the place. But then you turn around and you go, what on the dwarves do I want to charge? And I look at Mike's list and I go, nothing. I don't want to charge anything in that dwarf list. So it's going to be an interesting, can Mike kind of go last and maybe do the cheeky pull people off like objectives, but as long as the dwarves can kind of layer, which might be a problem because there are a lot of hordes, there's nothing really that they want to run into. So my first glance is I think the dwarves have it just by kind of accident, I almost want to say, because like Mike's going to do what he wants to do and he's probably going to be successful at it, but I don't think he's got really the tools to pick up a lot because he's got some shooting but not a lot of shooting, and so there's still some Radiance of Life, there's a little bit of heal, I think, or no, there's no heal, right? But just Radiance of Life, and then between all the defense 5 hordes and then Scorched Earth on top of it, it's going to be really rough for him to try to pick up units.
So Gollok's Fury now gives Aura Iron Resolve to dwarves as well. So there's Iron Resolve and Radiance of Life in the list. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and all of those infantry, except for the Berserkers, which have buckets of attacks, are hitting on 3s with Elite because of if he's playing it right with the Aura and the formation. So they can kind of fight a little bit through the Ensnare and not be too worse for wear. They'll win that trade. It'll maybe take 3 turns, but Dwarves got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I was going to say, does anyone know Will personally?
He's in Texas. I think he's local to Dallas, but
Okay.
I've only seen him before at BCBs. He's good friends with Tim Smith, and so they'll pair together. Will's a super cool guy. I think he's got kind of an acting background. Like he does the play circuit, I think, but he's a really cool dude. But I don't think he plays Kings much. So some of Mike's weird trickery will probably throw him through a loop because I don't know how much he actually plays outside of kind of those couple yearly games. But I don't know how much extra overthinking needs to happen, especially if Mike might time himself out in the process.
Yeah.
I thought Will was in Lubbock. If Will has moved to Dallas, then he needs to.
He might be Lubbock. I'm not
to reach out.
I think that actually might be accurate. I'm not as.
But I think he was in school or something. So if he's in DFW, anywhere in DFW, come find me and talk to me.
Right.
The one thing I don't really care for in Mike's army is that he has 14 drops, but only 8 of them are scoring. Because he has 4 individuals and 2 war machines. So one of the things I look at when I look at a list is, 8 units to kill, and then I win any objective. So, and I don't think there's enough shooting that Mike's really too scared, but the hitting on 3s with everything in Elite, he's going to chew through the ensnarers, the Thule. Mike's not going to want to really be in combat with anything in this list. So I think that the dwarves will just slowly walk to where they need to go and sit there and just block each other up from wind blasting and try their best not to get pushed or pulled too far away from where they need to be at the end of the game. So I think I'm going to give this one to Will.
Yeah, I think against a more alpha style list, Mike's list is really good because he's moving you around. You have fewer units. He's using Ector to get in the way. He's using this character. But I think Devlin had a really good point, which is he could do all that stuff, but then what is he wanting to fight? There really isn't a lot of great fights, but just to sit back and try to be on objectives and have the dwarves fight him in terrain. But even if that's the case, I think they have enough just volume of attacks with the low defense to chew through it. So I think Mike's gonna I'm gonna go with the dwarves in this one, but Mike's gonna have a good tournament. This army he's bringing to is really well painted, really nice looking Trident Realms army. And there's gonna be some games he has with people who are just gonna be so turned upside down against it that they're not gonna know what to do.
Yeah, I'm normally not super hyped up on Wind Blast and Snare just in general as movement mechanics because effectively you're spending points just to try to shuffle stuff, but it's not in the movement phase, so you can't really take advantage of it until the next turn in most cases. So really it's about trying to push stuff out of charge ranges. And I will say that this dwarf list overall, it is really slow. There's a lot of speed 4, a lot of speed 5. So I think it'll come down to if Will plays around it correctly, if he stacks up his units and make sure that he's button to button a couple things just so that Wind Blast isn't shoving him back constantly. But if he does that, then I think most of the impetus of Mike's list is gone. because like if he pulls you forward, that's good for the dwarves because that's bringing him closer to you. Like, so I give the edge to the dwarves, but I think it'll be an interesting one to watch, and I definitely would like to see how Mike's list performs against some of these hyper elite lists that we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I think Mike has been playing a lot more than Will, so he may very well pull it out. But list on list, I'm going to give it to the dwarves in large part because of the formation. Just all those units hitting on threes against. I mean, that's the counter to ensnares, hitting on threes, and then you throw an elite too. It doesn't matter if you don't have any crushing. Just 15 attacks on threes from those regiments is going to hurt some Thule. Not even talking about the Ironclad Horde or the Shieldbreaker Horde. So, and there's shooting to pick up stuff if Mike wants to hang back and play some tricks. He might not be able to do that because he's going to be taking some damage from the sharpshooters and Golik's Furies and the random organ gun that's in there. So I'm going to give it to Will.
Yeah, he's got just enough shooting to put a quasi clock on Mike. Because he'll have his own clock, and then he'll have the clock of shooting.
Right.
But yeah, it's just enough shooting that I think he has to try to engage. So, but so I'm curious to see clockwise, since he did sort of play it in a tournament for the first time the other weekend ago, if his clock management is a little bit better at Lonewolf. But that definitely is going to be one thing he's going to have to be really focused on, is not managing that clock.
Yeah. So I think that's a pretty good sweep for Will there, but with a lot of interest in Mike's list, if nothing else, because that's definitely an intriguing list to look at. All right, and that brings us for our last one for tonight, which is going to be.
None of us got picked for the first night, huh? We all get saved for tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow as we all get to critique ourselves.
I can't wait to pick my opponent over me.
We have Tim Delmas, another fantastically painted army, I'm sure.
Oh, beautiful! Just a beautiful army.
Absolutely. And Travis Cook, respectively.
I'll take whichever one of these.
You can take Travis. We'll start with Travis.
All right. So Travis has Undead. He's taking 2 regiments of zombies, 3 troops of wraiths, 2 regiments of Soul Reaver infantry, one with Staying Stone, the other with Chalice, 2 troops of Rev Cav, 2 hordes of wights, one with Caterpillar, the other with Brew of Sharpness. Vampire on Undead Pegasus with the Dwarven Ale, a Rev King with Blade of Slashing and Mounted, also as Surge 5, and then a Necromancer with Inspiring and Mounted, and a Banechant 2 for good luck. 14 units, 22 unit strength.
Cookie Cutter Undead. Here we go. On the flip side, we've got Tim Delmas. He's bringing Kingdoms of Men, second one we've seen thus far. 3 regiments of Shield Wall, the literal generic unit the entire game is built off of. Spear Phalanxes, 2 of them, regiments. 2 hordes of Foot Guard, 1 with Brew of Strength, exchanging for extra crushing. So it'll be Crush 2, Defense 4. Or no. Yeah, Crush 2, Defense 4. And then the second one with Hammer of Measured Force. A Legion of Charioteers. These are the bad ones, so I disagree. But Caterpillar, they do have bows because they can't not take them. General with Crushing 1, Mighty, very inspiring, 85. 3 Assassins. Ooh. Scythe of the Harvester, which I'm gonna have to look up because I don't know what that does. All of these
Rampage. It's the D3.
Yeah, D3
Rampage. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. So Rampage on 1, Crushing, Mace of Crushing on 1, all of them with Indomitable Will, which effectively makes them fearless. Wizard, Conjurer's Staff, mounted with Knowledgeable and Shadow Beast. The Monarch, with flying, but not one of the special upgrades. Okay. And then the Outlaws. Again. This is they all have steady aim base and then get ignore terrain and ignore cover and indirect fire, respectively.
So
but only
really-
when they issue a halt order.
Okay, gotcha.
So remind me of the ruling, because the throwing dagger has its own profile, the shooting's not actually getting the scythe. Is that correct?
It is.
It does?
It does get rampage.
Okay.
Yeah, so the throwing dagger itself doesn't have its own attack profile.
Right.
It just says 12 inches piercing 1. So if
Right.
it had its own attack profile, then it would not benefit from the scythe.
Okay,
This
thank
would
you,
be
because I always get that confused.
Yeah, anything that uses just the base attack value benefits from those.
Okay, that's the disclaimer, because I knew there was something there. I couldn't remember what it was.
it's got a lot of cute throwing knives.
I mean, Tim's army feels to me like a beautifully painted army would I wonder if this is like a lot of just model choices that he wants to have in his army.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, right. So and the other one's just a more kind of on par meta-ish undead,
Yeah.
all the standard stuff you'd want.
It's my list, except the RevCav or a second king instead of the Necro.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
pretty much your four hammer undead list. That
And Travis is a local guy. I mean, he's playing undead, so I'm not saying he's copying me. It's just I've given him advice, and the advice is from what I run.
Shocking! An
Usually-
undead list with two hordes of whites and 2 regiments of soul readers.
Usually people find what works well and go with that. So
Yeah.
copying or not, it's good. So
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
a tried and
exactly.
true sort of list archetype that
we'll win 3 games in a tournament, probably.
Yeah.
I agree with this choice of staying stone here. I'm not super hype on the vampire on undead Pegasus. I feel like that should either just be a foot vampire with the new upgrade, or try to find the points for a just go full out on the dragon.
I don't know. I would feel like either you swap the items around, or if you free up points and try to get like a trickster's wand, so you can just hex other people to keep them from doing what they want. But yeah,
Sure.
that was kind of my weird thing. I was like, oh, so you weren't saving the points on the staying stone. You just put Dwarven Ale somewhere else.
Well, the thing is, you put it on the flyer because they're more likely to get shot and need the headstrong.
Right.
The Soul Reavers
Fair.
are hidden behind the RevCap troops. I like running one of the Pegasus just because it gives you another like threat vector, basically, that people have to respect a little bit. They can't.
It's a mini dragon.
The problem with the list that I found is like you're just punching people in the face super hard, but it helps just to have even one thing like that to make them respect the flank.
Sure.
That, or I know I've seen other people, and I think you were thinking about this too, Tom, of running a Lycanus or something just to give you something that can kind of scoot up aside.
I may take almost this exact list to Masters just with the Necro swapped. I mean, it literally is.
Rev Kings are better.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion. If you're not taking zombies, Rev Kings are better.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Tim's, army is going to look beautiful, but my vote is for Travis. I mean, this is a list that's really hard to beat, even when your list is really good. I mean, but I think Travis is going to take this one.
And I'm also a little sad, shades of earlier, that the Spear Phalanx doesn't have the pikes. I think they could really stick around for not much extra cost, and you could use a lot. Obviously, we know Tim does really beautiful armies, so the chariots are probably a very flavorful choice, and he probably has beautiful units for it. But from an optimization standpoint, chariots ain't it, fam. They're not even good in EOD, and EOD have the best ones right now that are the hybrids.
I think the Legion's fine in EOD, but I think they're terrible in Kings, and it's because they can't not take their bows. They're basically being pushed into points that aren't going to do anything.
This is a Robin Hood army. It's only fair that the charioteers get taxed. Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're speed 9. Like there's that. I guess, but like they hit on 4s.
This might be the most expensive army at the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I wish these were a regiment of knights. That's about where I'm at with those. But
you can almost get a horde of knights. Just saying.
Yeah.
Find 40 points and get a horde.
Yeah. But if you look at these shield wall regiments, I don't hate them. I just don't think that they really help anything. Like so many of these regiments are like
he needs the unlocks.
Yeah.
For all those assassins, the monarch, the general that I don't know why it's there, but he's got a wizard too. He needs every unlock possible in this list for all those characters.
Yeah. I think it'll be a gorgeous army because I've seen Tim's stuff previously and it's definitely up there in terms of the paint and the hobby, but I think it's gonna get demolished by this cookie cutter undead for the exact reasons that this cookie cutter undead is good.
And there's no shame in that.
Agreed.
I'm taking offense you're calling it cookie cutter, but
yeah. Tim's coming to have a good time.
Travis Cook is playing cookie cutter.
Yeah.
I'll just keep with the puns. The later we go, the more there are.
He's bringing the full anise. That's what we're gonna call this time.
Yeah.
Undead.
Weren't you the one who said that it's 2 regiments and 2 white hordes, and then everything else is flavored?
Yeah, that's the full anise. You bring 2 Soul Reaver infantry regiments, 2 white hordes, 2 RevCap troops, and then season to taste.
Yeah.
We get to taste the anise. Nice.
Before we sign off, if I'm not, I probably won't be on tomorrow. I'm just going to say my pick to win is the second box from the top, Adam Ballard. His Night Soccer list is disgusting. He's been kicking the shit out of people with it, so I think he's got a really good shot. At General, I don't know how your stuff's painted, Adam. I've never seen it in person. I'm sure it's good, but
I'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So, but at least general-wise, you're my pick.
Do you have a dark horse, Tom?
Yeah, let me just
considering your dark horse won Masters, so I mean,
let's see. I guess Dan King's.
Tom already has this filed away in order of priority from best to worst. So he's got to get into his archives to see which one he rated highest. There's a mathematical formula to do this.
My dark horse. Let's see. That's a good question. Probably is Garrett. Is Garrett a dark horse? Would that be considered a dark horse or no?
No, he just won his last tournament. Doesn't count.
Yeah, I think he's maybe grown beyond the realm of the dark horse and is now just a solid pick.
Okay. I'm never picking Tyler Schultz for anything again, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna say Lex is my dark horse.
That's a solid dark horse.
I think that's a fair good pick.
Yeah, that's a solid dark horse.
Good pick, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm thinking Lex or Chuck and his dwarves. Both of those are really solid lists. So.
Fucking dwarf list, man. I don't even know if that deserves to be a dark horse. It's filthy.
Not about the list, it's about the player. All right.
Sure. All right. Well, we'll wrap up tonight with those. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central, to finish off the second half. This is why we divide into 2, because we're already towing on 11 o'clock now.
We're under 4 hours, though.
Under 4 hours?
Just skirting the 4 hour mark.
You all can suck it.
But did let us go a little bit longer, but we had some fun lists to discuss, that's for sure. Definitely going to be a hard room, that's for sure. Holy crap.
It doesn't get softer tomorrow.
Yeah. It's not going to get any better.
It's the hard and spicy.
Keeping track, there's 5 people on this matchup cast that haven't read their list yet. So
none of
them are good at this game.
You're right. Hey, don't
sell yourself short.
Okay.
Story.
But yeah, we'll be back 7 Central. We'll wrap up the second half of the list and then do our dark horses and our best generals, and then we'll be happy to prove all of us wrong at Lonewolf next week. So for now, y'all have a good one. Good night. See y'all later.